Okay, and I think that's us live. Have to wait for it
Okay.
on my screen. My stream, or no, my screen, so I can verify it. But I believe we are live. Uh, hello everybody. For some reason my embedding's still not working. So whatever. I'll just put it up on YouTube if that works. Welcome to the show. I'm
Thank you.
here. I'm here with Andrew, uh, the actual Shadow Ruler for the Lizard League, the Underground Lizard League, to take over the world. Welcome to the show. I understand you're very busy with world domination. It was nice of you to make time to come and stream with us. I'm sorry about that, folks. It appears Andrew's translator is not working properly. If you could give me 1 second. All right, Andrew, you wanna try again? See if we can hear you now.
Hello, fellow humans. I too am human.
All right. That's good.
Can't
Sure.
wait to watch some human media today.
So we're here to watch Arcane episode 3, second half. Andrew, you want to tell us what happened last time while I check to make sure everything's working on the stream?
Oh, you betcha. You know how well known my memory is to be fantastic.
Okay, I've checked the stream and it's all working, so I can do the recap if you want.
Okay.
So last time, Vi tries to turn herself in. Guards come. Deckard shows up in Dex Vander, and then they all go to can factory place with the. Like, let me turn my game. That. They go to the can factory place that has the sea creature on the logo. Remember, Andrew, Silco loves sharks. This is very important. Most important thing, because it took me forever to notice it when I watched it. Maybe that's just because I'm dumb, but this is very important. That's why I'm telling you to remember it.
you have proof you like sharks?
I keep every scene, Andrew. I keep pointing it out. But yeah. So they take Vander to the can factory, and they have the dialogue about dreams, about their memes and their dreams, Andrew. And
they take all the messages that they're supposed to take correctly, interpret them as intended. They make the right decisions.
Vander says, Silco, your memes aren't dank enough. Silco says, my memes are the only memes that can give us our dreams. Which is also the plot of Metal Gear Rising. Fun fact. But yeah, and so then we have Vi. She goes home. She talks to Powder. Also, I mentioned this before, but I love Powder's character design. I don't know if you feel the same way, Andrew. I think she looks like an adorable child.
I would agree. Completely innocent, can't possibly do anything wrong.
You know what it is? It's those eyes, those giant eyes.
That would do it.
And yeah, and Vi says, "Yo, Powder, suck," and then does a kickflip and leaves. Which is not what happens.
She smacks her in the face and F's off.
And then she dabs on her. Which is not what happens, but actually is probably not too far off from how Powder sees that event happening.
Yeah.
And then it
because as has been well established, you know, children have an impeccable ability to interpret messages the precise way that they're intended to be interpreted.
Have you ever seen that video of that kid? And he gets out and starts walking towards the road, and he says, "Bye, Dad. I'm running away." And a few minutes later, the dad comes out and he's like, "Dustin, what are you doing?" And Dustin turns to him and says, "You said you didn't love me anymore." says, Dustin, I didn't say I didn't love you. I said, turn off the Xbox. It's time for bed. Dustin says, same thing. It's not the same thing. Oh, that's why I keep going
Amazing.
into the... I don't have a compressor on.
Well, good.
There we go. That should fix it. All right. But we're here to...
And they were never heard from again.
Never heard from again. All right, I'm here with my gin and tonic, and let's get into... Are you in the watch together, Andrew?
Yeah, man.
Okay, so I can just start whenever then.
Yep, I see your whole entire browser.
Oh. That odd.
Yeah.
Normally you don't see that.
Yeah. Normally I just see just the Netflix.
That is...
What if you... Oh, you probably can't maximize it.
Okay, I'm going... Oh, that's what it was. It wasn't maximized.
Oh,
Oopsie
okay.
daisy. Stream, application window,
Ow.
Netflix, share.
Weirdest thing just happened. I just moved my head and my whole entire lower neck started hurting.
Actually, this is a problem.
Wait.
On everything.
Oh, because you're doing a custom watch together, so it's like... Oh, there you go. Now it works.
Okay, I'll have to do that. It's actually going to be a problem, because I can't play it from the watch together. I have to play it from Netflix. But if the...
Oh.
What? Oh, wait, hold on. Hold on.
How'd you do it before?
I didn't let my memes be drained.
Well, that's because you're clearly a socialist.
So I had it in full screen, but I had windowed the Netflix, and I have no idea how it's...
No, I don't understand. I'm not very good with technology, so...
Yeah, this is... Okay, here's what we're going to do, Andrew.
What's a Netflix?
We're going to go to
Flick?
Arcane web thing. I will put it on Netflix screen. And now I'm recording the Netflix screen and not the watch together. So I can minimize that. Put that like that. There we go. We should be good to go.
Looks right to me on the watch together.
All right. Let's send someone to the line, just to be safe, maybe, Andrew. What do you think?
Oh boy.
We send someone to the line.
Oh gosh. Oh.
You have anyone you're mad at? Want to send to the line?
Max, I am a very forgiving, compassionate, and generous individual.
All right. If the stream fails, it's your fault.
I'll regret this. Well, I wanted to say,
Don't let me pause.
wait, I can't hear them. Can I not hear? Oh, that way?
Well, I've turned up the volume on my end, so it should come across a bit louder.
Okay. I wanted to say, from last time and from before, I really like Victor's voice acting in particular. I really like the way that the actor conveys his sort of timidness, but also his like, unwavering confidence.
Yeah, and
He's clearly like he's got a little bit of like that awkwardness to him. He's kind of like quiet, soft spoken, while simultaneously just being like, yeah, like this is just obviously gonna work. Like, what's there to doubt? Which is very interesting. I like that. So
yeah, and as and that's very much, especially later in the show, we very much see those aspects of his personality play out. And I would agree, his voice does match very well.
excellent.
It's almost like if you get voice actors who are actual voice actors and not just random celebrities, they do a better job. Crazy, I know, absurd. Who knows? Maybe Chris Pratt will break the cycle.
Actually, can't hear it. Weird.
Okay, is the sound on your watch together muted?
Let me see. How do I bring up that menu again? Oh yeah, I right click, show all controls.
I want to double check and make sure sound isn't going through the good.
Oh, my volume is actually grayed out. I assume that has something to do with the fact that it's your essentially your volume.
No, you should have a separate volume control.
Yeah, it's grayed out. Why don't I just close it and rejoin? See if that works.
It's grayed out. Well, I have it on mute, but it's also grayed out for me. Why today of all days? This is because you didn't put anyone on the wall, Andrew.
No.
It's all your fault. You ruined it. Okay. Do this.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh. Wait, what's this? This is an ad. Why is there an ad?
You have volume control, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so your volume control is working. Okay, so screen share, application window, share.
Turn on the watch together. Netflix.
And your volume is grayed out now?
It still hasn't loaded yet.
They update the software?
I'm not sure. It's taking a second there to load. I'll just refresh.
Okay.
Strange.
Tell us all about your game, Air Obscura. It's coming out this month, right?
Yeah, Air Obscura is coming out exactly in 1 week from now. Yeah, my watch together is just not loading.
I'm trying to fix it. That's why I'm trying to get you to talk about your game.
I thought it was because it just wasn't loading on my end. Gosh, what can I say about my game? Well, people can wishlist it. It's a kind of a horror game, kind of a stealth game. It's got some lore. You can find all sorts of cool lore books and environmental storytelling and kind of learn about the world, not with direct exposition, but with your own ingenuity, I guess, your own initiative. It's visually unique. It's like toon shaded. And it's kind of got stealth like Thief, called Thief the Dark Project type game. Not as good, but similarly where you can be somewhat more well hidden in the shadows and then quieter on carpets and things like that, which I really like. Oh wait, I wonder if it's because it's not coming through the right speakers. No,
No,
that
it's not.
wouldn't make sense.
The audio is actually not working.
Oh, okay.
Because it's grayed out on my end too. When I switch it to something else, the audio works.
Gotcha.
I'm reading through their screen share not working audio bug screen. And it's a lot of thanks for the feedback. Interesting, I've never seen this issue before. And the thread started in September, and now we're in April, so.
Well.
Well, it keeps saying Chrome, and I'm on Opera, but Opera is Chrome. So. I don't know, let me throw in another. Let's throw it on another browser, see if that fixes it. Push together. Create room. What, whose audio is that?
Mine, I guess. I'm not sure what you heard.
Oh, it's fucking.
Okay, never mind. I'm just gonna bring my desk.
Okay. That was it. Oh, this might be. Okay, hold on, this might be my fault. I might be dumb.
Oh.
Well, not dumb. It's someone else's fault, because it's never my fault.
You were the chosen one. You were meant to bring intellect. Not. I don't know. I give up.
Okay, this should fix it. Keyword there being should. Apparently that doesn't work either. Yeah, I have no idea what's happening. You have another game upcoming, don't you?
I wouldn't say it's upcoming, but yeah, I started working on that island game. It's called Cities of the Second Heaven. It's gonna be about floating islands in space, and you have to catch them, tether them so that you can consistently harvest them and build on them. And if you find a better island, you might be like, "Oh crap! I should probably tether that island," but then I'll have to lose one of my already built up islands. And have to make a player choice and decisions, and you know what is something that I can get rid of and stuff. So yeah, be fun. Working through a lot of bugs though. It's being weird for some reason when an island isn't moving and I do like a raycast on it. It detects it like way higher up than it actually physically is for some reason. So that is baffling to me. But yeah.
Apparently, I'm just screen recording. I've been just screen recording all of my desperate attempts to try and.
Oh,
Oh, we're going to turn that off. Yeah, I have no idea what is happening here.
I don't know, man. Is your audio coming in the way it usually is?
Literally everything was working normally up until that first issue where it wasn't grabbing the entire screen. And
Weird.
now, okay. Keep saying. Oh my fucking god. I may actually just. Okay. Holy shit, that was fucking dumb.
What?
There's the new link. Audio should work now.
Okay.
That was this.
You want to tell me what happened, or do you want to not talk about it?
It was muted, right? Which is normal because I have no audio on. But it's not that there was zero audio. It has a separate mute function that you can only access through the right-click menu.
Oh.
I have no idea why they have done this. And I'm not going to think about it much further because we have something that works.
Yes.
And I've maintained something that works is good enough.
In these circumstances, that is true.
Okay, but apparently Arcane's not showing up on the stream now.
Oh. Well, that should be really straightforward to do. We're not really showing them the actual video, right?
What do you mean?
Because, I don't know, like, how easy is it to fix and versus how important is it that they actually see it?
Oh, I fixed it.
Okay, perfect.
I thought I had. Hold on.
Next, this is why you should have had someone on the wall.
Right, we're going back to the old setup now.
Oh.
I don't know why. But the old setup worked. And what do we say about things that work?
That they are perfect and pristine.
They're good.
We call them stunning and or brave.
Clap. Okay, but now it won't capture the some Christ. Okay. Window capture. Add source. Okay. Oh, that's not at all the source I want. Window capture. Stop it. Hold on. We're almost there. There we go. That's in order. Window capture. Add source. Much to get. So let's move stuff around. That. And we do one of these. One of those. There we go. Now, Andrew,
Oh,
we're going to play the video.
correct.
And I'm going to ask you if you hear the audio.
Very good.
And if you give me any answer other than yes, I will come to your house and kill you.
Excellent. I already went to confession, so I'm ready.
Okay. You hear the audio?
Of course. Why wouldn't I, Max? Of course I hear
Sweats nervously, looks over at door.
it.
Yeah, yeah, I can see. What?
Like, oh, what'd you think of that great dialogue? Oh man, that dialogue? Yeah, man.
Okay. We we have something that works, and something that works is good enough.
There you go. Stunning and emotional.
We're going to crank it.
Excellent. Oh, oh, people will see them
Inconspicuous. Little
completely
conspicuous.
conspicuous. Slightly conspicuous.
So we talked a bit about this last time. Um, obviously, very, very, very important stuff is happening in Zon, and they're going to break up these scenes with Victor. And people get really annoyed sometimes when they watch it for the first time because they want to know what's happening in Zon. And comparatively, Piltover seems less important. But it is super important for two reasons. One, it sets up everything that's going to happen for the coming time skip. And two, it helps
Mm.
add levity, very emotional moments like the one we're about to watch.
And well, I mean, I would say I don't see at all why people would find it like less important because they're working on technology that like wise old Heimerdinger and also the crazy wizard at the beginning with Ace, I think. Um,
Yeah, but
and
there's
by crazy I mean like hyper powerful. Like clearly this technology is like if like whatever they may or may not finish with it, which viewer may presume that whatever initial climactic moment is about to happen with the Zon folks is going to coincide narratively as a plot beat with whatever they're working on. So like, there's some sort of convergence going on. Like clearly, like
yeah,
whatever
I
they're
get
doing
it.
is highly important.
But Jace and Victor's actual lives aren't in danger, right? There's a bit of a difference
Well,
in
I
the
mean, the
stakes.
entire city's at stake. Like we have no idea what's going to happen to Zon. For all we know, Ace
Well,
is
we don't
going
care
to
about the
blow up
entire
the
city. We just
city.
care about Vander and his
Yeah,
kids.
I guess. I
Like,
know,
no,
but
I
if he
get what
blows
you're
up the
saying.
city, it's gonna bury potentially the like it'll potentially like bury and rubble our heroes, right? Maybe.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe, but we all think
He's,
he's going to
you
do it.
said you kept saying that they're basically working with like it's like having a nuclear reactor in your bedroom. Like
Sure, but I feel like when most people are watching it, we're not really thinking, oh, this is definitely going to go off and kill it. We're thinking it'll probably get it. Not the
no,
least
that's
of
not
which
what I'm
because
thinking at all.
okay, maybe we know they'll survive because they're league characters. But anyway, but no, like there is sort of a bit of I feel like there's more emotional investment at this point in the story with Vander and Vi and the kids than there is in sort of Jason Victor's invention. And I feel
Yeah,
like a lot of times when you go
yeah.
through this, and a lot of people, and even I did this my first time round. We'll have like a super serious Vander moment that'll end like on a cliffhanger and cut back and like, oh god, just tell me what happens.
Subjectively, I feel like Jace is somewhat more and this is probably just like very subjectively from my personal case that I find Jace somewhat more relatable. Um, the Zon kids are super relatable and very like like in terms of characters and writing. And of course very emotional and like we can see like the challenges that they're going through. But I mean like
Yeah,
them
and
they're
that
kind of
and that
more
may have a
core.
bit to do with like some personality differences. I think
However, though, but despite him being more well off, like like what's Vi, like she's very much being supported by Vander. Jace's own mom, although trying to support him, just completely like undermined his work, right? Which, of course, saving his life, probably, but or at least his not having to be exiled. But like it, there's a lot of emotional weight going on with Jace. I think it's quite there's quite a lot there,
Yeah.
and at the very least, you can see like this guy is a certain sense in a bit of a vulnerable position because Victor hasn't exactly shown himself to be necessarily trustworthy. Like he seems like a very pragmatic and like a true neutral. Let me see what I can get out of this type of guy. Also being like somewhat supportive of Jace. So, but it's like, what if Victor is kind of potentially like manipulating Jace because Jace is so excited about his work. You know what I mean? Like there's quite a
Yeah.
lot going on there, in my opinion.
I also feel like if someone was going to be relate to Jace, you'd be the kind of guy to relate to Jace. I think
Maybe.
because you say he's relatable, and I think you're you specifically are someone who would relate very well to Jace, right? In some ways, you're right. He's very he's like this sort of technological student who likes to build things that are meaningful to him, which is somewhat similar to what you do, kind of. Obviously, you're not like inventing nuclear bomb style stuff, but like you're a tech involved guy. You make art with your technological knowledge. Both of you have a very strong drive to do good and help people, right? I relate to Silco, which is which is the best, in my opinion, the best way to watch this show because Silco's the only one who doesn't have plot armor.
Oh yeah.
Right? Every Jace,
Well, I
Victor,
mean,
Powder, Vi, he's the only one who doesn't. And also, this is why I think
Marcus
this
doesn't
show is
have
so
plot
great
armor.
because I started off sympathizing with Silco a lot more, and and your position, if you take that position, it does change by the end of it because well, we'll talk about it when we get there.
Yeah, and there's a lot that you can, of course, sympathize with Silco for. I mean, he was betrayed by his best friend. Um, they were both they were both passionate about the independence of their people, right? The only difference is Silco ultimately decided to take very extreme measures, but it's like, I mean, his his best friend tried to kill him. Like that, that would do it.
Yeah, and there's obviously I don't intend to go go killing people, but he's in a very different situation than I am. But
Yeah.
he is obviously a part of the more radical elements, and generally speaking, I've been a kind of more radical person, uh, which has always been interesting because we're on very opposite ends of the spectrum. But yeah, I started off sympathizing and agreeing more with Silco. Um, and Vi, I think Vi does a good job for that because she takes a very good middle ground where she's not
Mm,
advocating to go like she's not advocating to go to Piltover and start bombing churches, right? But she
mm,
also makes the point if you don't fight, nothing will ever get better.
yeah. I mean, I certainly sympathize with his perspective in that. I mean, like, there's a lot of things that I'm super frustrated about with, like, in terms of like establishment and whatever. And you sometimes wonder, like, well, shoot, like, how much of a grip does the system really have? Like, how much can it really change? And so, no, that definitely makes sense.
Yeah, and the voice actor, Jason, I think it's Spayek. I can't remember the exact quote, but it's something like Silco is the hero of a different story.
Mm.
Uh, and to be fair, if Silco in another context, like Braveheart, would definitely be the heroic underdog who saves the oppressed minority from an oppressive tyranny.
Well, I mean, if you started seeing Braveheart injecting people with like serum that makes them addicted
Well,
and monsters, there'd
fair
be
enough,
like question marks there.
right? But
It's
I'm
like
sure
like
if we looked into the actual history behind Braveheart, I'm sure we would find some unsavory things.
probably.
This is
Yeah,
this
like
is you know who does this really does this well as well. If you ever watched Star Trek DS9, Kira Nerys is the DS9 is a space station on Bajor, and so the Federation has like a joint occupation of the. It's not an occupation, but it's the Federation and the Bajor government both occupy the space station in sort of a allied partnership. Because Bajor recently has gotten independence from the Cardassians, who was another alien group. And the second in command for the
no, no,
Federation
Max.
also.
They're just a very wealthy family with a reality show. Sorry.
Uh, but the second in command is a lady named Kira Nerys, who is unambiguously a terrorist.
Oh.
That's what she did, and she was a terrorist in a terrorist cell who did terrorism against the Kardashian, the Kardashians. God damn it, the Cardassians, and because of that terrorism, was able to sort of wrestle independence. My alarm going off? My alarm is
And no.
uh, was able with the rest of the sort of rebellious terrorist organization is able to wrestle control of Bajor from the Cardassians, and they get independence. And it's a continuing running theme through DS9. Although DS9, and I think the writers would agree, probably could have used more time to flesh out all of the ideas they wanted to put into it. But this is one of the sort of the one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. It's always
Yeah.
the joke. But even like if
Well, that
you
makes sense. And actually, the more that you're telling me about this, the more I think, yeah, like there is a lot of weight to Silco. Like, I think if I was in a Zon dweller's position, I would be like, man, like, yeah, Vander has done a lot of good, but like now is the time we freaking fight because these guys are gonna like push us, and they're gonna keep on overstepping. Like, how many times are they gonna come, hang out and be, enforcing their laws in our town, and like, what's that gonna eventually turn into?
yeah,
Like,
and it's
I would almost think like, yeah, like Vander should be more inclined to fight.
yeah, and it's not like Silco is using like the drugs on them. Which well, the problem with talking about anything when you get into real sort of conflicts, there's a lot more. Everything's a lot more gray than you would like it to be. Right. On one hand, Silco's rule probably does get people. Some people die who may have not died if Silco wasn't in charge. On the other hand, the enforcers were able to go in, bust people up, and they straight up they killed a bunch of peaceful protests. Well, we don't know if it was peaceful necessarily, but they killed a ton of the protesters under Vander when they crossed the
Yeah,
bridge.
yeah.
They're, everyone here is in a real shit situation. It's the South Park joke. You have the choice between a douche and a turd sandwich, and sometimes you gotta ante up and make that choice, and hope that when chips land, it's not fucking horrific. Um, but yeah, and this is what's one of the great things about this show, I think, because they never present an answer, right? We have sort of Silco has this answer, and then the shift he goes through as a character, which is phenomenal, sort of changes that. We have this answer, and we have Vander's answer. Neither of them are very good. And then we have Vi doesn't have an answer. She gives up. She turns herself in. Right? There isn't. This is it's a situation where all the answers are wrong ones,
Mm.
and you have to pick the one that's least wrong, and you don't know which one it is. Um, which is why all the characters are sympathetic in their own way. Because while you can disagree with choices they make, you can't really give a hard like this is very clearly can't give a this person's just doing it to be evil. This isn't the I don't know if you ever read this, but we read a play in conjunction with our reading of Merchant of Venice, where this guy gets up on stage and he's talking to this guy and he's telling him this about how every day he just walks down and he kicks a puppy and he stabs a baby.
We
He's
were
just
we
walking
were
down
we
the
were in
street doing horrible things. And the guy says,
that
"Why do
in
you do this?" And he says, "Oh, because I am a Jew." Which the point in context was because Merchant of Venice is a very strong uh, anti-Semitic piece, right? Hath a Jew not eyes, doth a Jew not bleed? And so they show us like this is kind of what they were showing at the time. And like, yeah, this is pretty icy. But it's very easy with like a lot of characters to just have these sort of one-dimensional villain baddies, whereas you can't really tell in Arcane if there isn't really any bad guys. They're just people doing bad things, if that makes sense.
does
And
make
poor
sense.
and poor Powder is caught in the middle. How is she going to react to all this horribleness?
Well, she's a sweet, innocent little girl, so she's going to brighten everyone's day and be like, "No, everyone, you shouldn't do that. Let's be nice to each other."
And world peace.
Yeah, exactly, world peace.
World
Then
peace.
Silco will be like,
Sam Hyde's best show. All right, let's take a look.
"Yeah, let's go." Oh snap! Light bulb. This is happening. I'm just appreciate the flippin'
Yeah, it's a
animation
short scene,
and
so I just want
everything.
to let it play. And then
Yeah, this is oh,
I love everything about that scene.
awesome. That was great.
Firstly, this is sort of where we get hints of the performance this voice actor is going to do later in the episode. She's selling it hardcore. It's a great piece of acting. Two, the music. It slowly enters and has those sort of droning, um, those strings. I don't know if droning's the word, but because they're not really slow or anything, but those strings coming in with that sort of repetitive, um, kind of kind of feel really adds to the atmosphere. And then just this, both the actual the art of it, but how it's displayed is this really great tantrum that someone her
Uh,
age would be doing.
I
And
found the intercutting between like the lightning of her little um like the little like crystal things that she's throwing, and then like as it intercuts between um the when they saw them,
yeah,
it seemed really interesting. Like I don't know, maybe there wasn't anything to like. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just typical flashback, but it seemed interesting the way that everything matched up. Just in the moment. Oh
yeah,
well.
there's yeah, I put it on so people would watch. There's sort of like a visual display of power that's occurring that coincides with her thought process, right? We see the energy, which is power. We have the reflection power, and then Powder has this realization she has the power to help
Mm.
by the power of Grayskull. But all the stuff prior to it, like how she's smacking her head, tearing apart her ways, the screaming, all of that really sets it apart as this great depiction, both in terms of like realism, very much how really child breakdowns look, but also it it really pulls on those sorts of sympathy and empathy strings, where we can really see a breakdown, as opposed to like a scene where she's like crying alone, or like a scene where she's just like sad and crying, and then she sees the thing, and then pops, oh, I figured it out, or like she's staring at the mirror and saying, "Oh, you horrible person who can't do anything. I bet you feel sad," or some shit, where it's explained through dialogue. There's a time and a place to use monologues and soliloquies, and that's a good example of a place where it'd be a terrible idea, and where they're using just the visual, right? Because that entire scene, no dialogue except for the last line. Everything else was just displayed with the visuals itself. Anything else you want to add before we move on, Andrew?
I think that covers it.
Also, notice what's on that sign there, Andrew. Evolved to crab.
Uh,
It's a crab,
oh,
which is a sea creature. We all know who loves sea creatures, especially
um,
sharks.
crabs are
Crabs are people.
technically crustinoids, which are always land dwelling.
Crustangulars. And there they are on the roof.
Oh, oh, cool. Just use that in flashback, and then we actually go there. Well played, show. Well played. Aaron, it's stable.
Yep. And so this is a sort of great scene in conjunction to what we're seeing with. Oh, hold on.
Oh, maybe not as stable. Yikes. Oh, got it.
There's a couple of things that are really great about putting these scenes here. One is we have there's three. So there's the comic relief thing, and there's the both simultaneous rising actions. The other couple of things that are really great about doing these scenes the way they are is we've just had Powder realizing the power of these stones and deciding to use them, and now we have Jace and Victor uh, deciding to use the powers that those stones have, and really showing off what these stones are capable of.
Yeah, and it's like, does Powder really understand these things well enough to help them in whatever way she's planning to? Yeah, probably.
Right? And what's great about the way these are split up is we have a rising action in sort of power. Like the previous scene was it's a glow in the window. Now we have this scene where it's this giant fucking explosion, destroys and shatters the windows, and then brings everything back into like this implosion. Right? So each time we go back, these stones are getting more and more and more powerful. So it's sort of having the rising action within this B plot is also affecting the rising action in the A plot. And it's just a great way to sort of weave these two narratives together. Now we are back. And they're not too long either, which is nice. So we jump between them pretty quickly.
Why Evander sure has been beaten.
This is the first time he actually has to use his lockpicking.
Hmm.
So I don't know if did you hear the audio for that part, or was I talking too loud?
Oh, I heard it. He's like, "How'd you get in here?" And she was like, "Oh, it was easy. There's an open window." And then he's like, "Oh no." Yep, 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 yep.
So how a bad show would have handled it is they would have had him like sit there like Admiral Akbar and say, "Fool, this was a trap. He's got 100 guards waiting for you."
Don't you know? If it was so easy, maybe they wanted you to get in here.
Yeah, that would be the line, right? Um, and there's sort of a natural like Vander's like, hold on a second, how are you getting in here?
Mm,
And then she says, oh no, it was easy, and then they sort of both realize it at the same time.
yeah.
What's really great, I'll mute it so we can keep talking. But what's really great is they're using very little dialogue to convey the meanings that they're trying. Right? I have no audio on, and we can tell the exact moment she realizes
Yep,
it's the
yep.
Morgan. At that moment, she knew she fucked up.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just another great example of visual storytelling, and specifically with Arcane and its faces. At least, and this is part of why I think they may have done this in the way they did, where they have like the 3D models, and then all this is hand painted on top, so they could get those expressions perfect. We don't need any dialogue. We don't know. Oh no, this is a trap. We know exactly what everyone's thinking in that moment. And then we have Best Boy come in. There he is. Right. Once again, it's all in the eyes.
Who this?
Can you tell? Did you know what music's playing?
Oh.
It's from the beginning of the episode. It's the
Oh.
song that's playing when he's drowning.
Oh.
A story of opposites.
Oh.
Yet throughout this entire thing, Vi says nothing. We can tell her, right, her going from fear to like this angry to like this determination to sort of this more angry determination.
Whoa.
And here come the faster paced strings. Horns are a nice touch too. Notice once again they're doing Light Vice. You remember Light Vice, Andrew?
Yeah, that's the like the repeating melody, repeating sound.
Yeah, and that's what they're doing in the scene. They're mixing them. Right? Silco's is the underwater prepare to drown, and then it's mixing with the high strings, and then Powder comes in. And we have that her sort of sound that's showing up when she does stuff. Right, I'll play it again so you can catch it. I'm not doing it right, but that.
I hear it. The violin sounding thing.
Yep.
Is this the scene where she fights these guys? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And you'll notice
Or
throughout,
I
even though
remember
the
this
music's
being.
changed, they're keeping the Silco's the lady vocalist.
Oh,
Who would win? Big beefy boy or one little girl?
oh, big beefy boy. This is a fact. She does have what are they called? Knuckle busters. Ow. Ow, straight to the moon.
Eh,
that was,
nine.
was
So
just discombobulate.
so I like this fight scene a lot. and I figure we talk about it now a bit, so we can talk about minutia a bit more when we get. But on paper, this should be everything we hate in a fight scene, right?
Yes.
One little girl beating up a bunch of actual like big thuggy boys, trained, not trained, but actual like killers.
Yeah, never
Um,
gonna happen.
but what's great about this scene is they have purposely set everything up, make this scene work, right? I'm gonna go here.
Yeah, she's only really fighting one at a time, right? Because they're on that narrow bridge.
Yeah, so two great examples of this. Have you ever seen Old Boy? The Korean original, not any of the new shitty ones.
I'm afraid I haven't.
Old Boy has one of the best fight scenes in all of cinema. And it's one guy fights like 30 dudes, and it's one continuous shot for the entire fight.
Oh, I may have seen the clip.
Yeah, it's
I
very, very
remember.
good. And how they do this and how they make it realistic is, and this is a big problem. Like if you're watching any of those like Naruto big fights, there's one guy fighting and 80 dudes standing around waiting for their turn,
Hmm.
which is not at all
Yeah.
how this normally happens. But having this here, having that bridge, creates a turns. There's a great line from Vagabond. And Vagabond, it's about this. It's about Musashi. Supposedly, I shouldn't say supposedly, because there's a pretty good shot that he is the greatest samurai in all of Japanese history, or at the very least the greatest swordsman. And their Vagabond is about him and his journey. Uh, and there's a great line where he says, "I can't win a 1v. I can't remember the number, but it's like a 1v 100, 1v80 fight, but I can win 80 1v1 fights." And so that entire how that entire arc is structured, or that at least that fight is him finding ways to fight each of these 80 people one on one in this forest,
Hmm.
which is an actual legitimate samurai tactic during the Meiji Restoration. One of the tactics they would use was if you got outnumbered, you would run and get into an alley. And that way, since
Oh,
you have walls on both sides, you could fight like 10 1v1s, which you have a much better chance at living at than 1v10. And
yeah.
so,
No, for sure. However, though, it must be noted that, like, man, stamina is so vital here.
yeah, no,
Like
I'm not saying 80 1v1 fights are easy. This is
oh, for
obviously a
sure. I
very
know.
hard
I
uphill
know.
battle, but they've done
But
everything.
I mean,
They've done multiple things to get to this point. One, they've set it up to be like 20 1v1s, right? That's the first thing they
I
did.
haven't seen the was it Old Boy?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, so I can't comment on that. But for this,
Well, Old Boy does this very well. He
it
gets
could be.
stabbed like multiple times, and he's bleeding all over the place. It's great. But yeah, you're saying about
I
this?
think I have. I think I have actually seen the clip, but this is there's like what, like a dozen guys, less than that.
Yeah.
Um, you can do 10 fights in a row nonstop, especially with the amount of training that she's done.
That's the other big
Um,
thing they do. They constantly show her one practicing, right? She has the big boxing match, and she's very good at it. She's a top scorer. So not only does that show she has training, so she's probably more skilled than these people, right? Because we saw her fight with Deckard. These are people who are going to be using intimidation most of the time, as opposed to, and they're probably like street fights as opposed to any actual boxing. So we know her technique is probably better. She practices fighting every day, so her stamina is probably very good. They've put it into the situation where she just really has to deal with 1v1s, and then four, by having the big guy fight her first, she's able to take out the most serious threat to her, while that making sense because it's a surprise shot, right?
yeah, and all those guys are probably like, the boss is probably gonna, deal with this, and we'll, kind of like grab and grapple and deal with whoever we need to back him up, and then he gets knocked out first, and you're like, oh,
She
frick,
did
well.
1d8 psych damage on all of them, right? So it makes sense that first fight, right? Because he's very clearly not taking this seriously. He's in like the lax stance and he stabs her, and she gets the one shot into the jaw, which is the best place to hit someone, right? Everyone knows the expression glass jaw, right? That's probably one of the best places you can hit someone to knock them out. So
Yeah,
a
makes
lot of
sense.
factors for that, and we know that she probably knows this because we know that she has this boxing background. So the show sets up all these different factors, and then plus she has these giant fucking metal gauntlets.
Is it ever explicitly said that she's actually like sparred with Vander? It doesn't
It's
need to be
not.
because we can pretty well infer that she has.
Yeah, we can infer it. At the very least, she sparred with someone and learned how to box.
Yeah.
Vander is most likely candidate, but we know for sure she can box. We know for sure, and brass knuckles, like they're no joke. You get
Oh.
hit with one of those, it hurts.
Yeah, and she's got massive ones.
Yeah, like they'll sure you can fracture some shit. But yeah, she's got the massive one, and her shots. If we look, uh, actually,
And I mean, like bare knuckle is bad enough. Like,
look where she
yeah,
right. She's aiming on all the good spots.
yeah,
Um,
that guy's dead.
yeah, she's aiming for. She's getting headshots in. She's going for knockouts. Right. So everything in the show has built. This is like what's it the dumb complaint about Luke Skywalker being a Mary Sue because he blows up the Death Star. Right? They spend that entire movie building him up to do this one fucking thing.
Yeah.
And that's why it works. Similarly, they spent all the time with Vi up to this point building her up to do this one thing. And that's why it's so effective. This isn't this isn't super unrealistic where she's jumping in a horde and just beating everyone up with weird kicks and shit. Right? They've built her up to do one thing, and then they've slanted every single possible factor they could into her favor to even out this fight. And that's why this scene works so well when something like Batwoman doesn't. But watch a
Well,
bit
I'll
more.
have to. Yeah, let me see the whole thing.
Sorry, what was that?
Well, let's see the whole thing because I want to get a really good idea of like what actually like
Like you want to start
for
from
beat happens.
from Big Guy?
Yeah, from Big Guy.
All right.
Because I'll have to essentially see like what. Oh, excuse me. What she like move for move, what actually happens.
Right. And one thing to notice, when he telegraphs that knife stab as well. Right. He pulls
Yeah,
back, which in a real fights you're not supposed to use like the cocked back punches because you know exactly what's coming. But she sees it coming, right? And probably because a good chunk of this is him not taking it seriously, right? His hands aren't up.
yeah,
So then she blocks it with the glove, which is metal, so it makes sense she can do that. She
yeah.
parries.
But I don't know if she can like legitimately like I don't know that she can actually like I believe she can do the timing. I believe she can deflect it or like that she can catch it, but I don't believe that she. Can you go back 10 seconds or 5 or whatever just to? I want to see.
I can
Yeah,
mute this as well, so you can.
sure. Just want to see what does her hand do.
I think she has a parry
So
here.
she actually pushes back and then punches. I don't think she could have the strength to push that back.
Um,
I
I
think
wouldn't
she
just.
could glance it off. It doesn't matter. It's a little tiny. I don't think she could push him back like that. He's huge. This is
Oh, sorry, are you
like
talking about? Okay, let's go back. Are you talking about where she like knocks him into the air?
no.
Or
The punch is fine. The punch is
so
fine.
this
It's
this
the
part right
she,
here then.
she catches the knife. That
Um, I might disagree a
they're
little bit.
basically in a they're basically in a bind, right?
This
All he does is duck, stab. She's dead. Right? Um,
So okay, so for the hand thing, I'm going to give it a little bit to Vi here because that is not a good striking position for a knife, right? Because all of his powers is going to be at the base as opposed to where she's actually hitting it. So it's actually more likely that he'd just punch her here than he would than the knife would
I
actually hit
mean,
through.
like by the size of him, like he so
There's also
the blade is up, his fist is slightly below. He all he has to do is like push forward, and she's on the
what I
ground.
think
Like
is
he's
because
enormous,
he
like twice her size.
comes in as a stab, right? This is a stab, so I think she's
Yeah,
deflecting it
she
up.
pushes it up. Yeah, so wait, let me think. If I stab down and then I rise
Oh,
up, it's almost like an Aikido type of thing, but she's way shorter, so I come down. She manages to push it up to a point where I'm essentially aiming slightly above her. Yeah, maybe. I mean, okay, maybe.
I think
Maybe.
I think maybe is close enough that it's not breaking
Yeah,
suspension of disbelief.
yeah.
I'll take a maybe over a Wonder Woman does a spinning
Yeah,
kick
no,
and
no,
knocks
no,
out
for
6
sure.
people.
For sure. For sure. I'm
Right?
and I don't think it's a problem either way. I'm very interested in like breaking down the minutia when it comes to
Yeah,
the
why
fight
not? We
just
both do
because like
martial arts.
yeah.
I think I think given that she has a ton of experience blocking the mechanical hands,
Guess that
and
guy's about as big as Vander, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and then to the angle is well, even if practically she wouldn't be able to do this, like in real life, the way that this shot is set up is to give as much of the benefit to Vi as possible. Right? She's not like catching the blades in like midair and holding it or something, and she's not taking it head on. She's deflecting it and glancing it.
Yeah, true. And in choreography, um the timing, like the tempo, is often exaggerated. So
Yeah.
yeah, like in a quicker tempo, this would be. I want to say would be pretty reasonable, like pretty like legit, I guess.
But then for the next scene, his eyes now are on the blade. So I think this is more confusion. But look where his head is. It's way out and it's open. His hand is way back on the other side of him.
Yeah,
So this is a prime position for her to go for the counterpunch.
yeah.
And I'll
Okay.
grant you that the the flying backwards may be a little exaggerated,
Well, I'm actually
but
okay with that because of the like the pneumatic gloves that she has, right?
I don't know if they're pneumatic.
Are they pneumatic?
I
They're
think
just
they're just
metal. They're
metal.
just steel. Hmm. Then my question would be, how can she like be so mobile with them, right? Like they're not actively adding strength, and that's a huge difference. Like her punches would be way slower than what she would be used to, even if she can carry them.
Yeah,
Why I would think that they must be adding some sort of extra force and strength to them.
maybe,
Doesn't
but
necessarily like
at that point
mechanically
it's
make sense the
headcanon.
way that they're built.
We
Think
could go
so?
back and try to examine the gloves from an earlier scene if you want, but
I mean, like
I will
we
take the
haven't seen them
position.
in use, right? Like what we can. I mean, like my inference from that is like necessarily must be the case that like because we haven't seen them in use before, right? Why else would she use them if not for extra punching power, right?
Well, I imagine having the metal, like brass knuckles, don't give you extra punching power, but they give you a ton of extra damage.
You think they're just massive brass knuckles?
That's what I thought they were.
Hmm.
Um, I could be wrong, but even if they are just massive brass knuckles, I'm fine with movies, especially animated shows, exaggerating people's strength and impact a little bit. Right? If you've ever seen an anime where they pull, they jump 20 feet and like do crazy shit, I'm fine with them exaggerating it a little bit if it makes it a cooler or nicer shot. Because at the end of the day, this is a film, not a not like a documentary. It just doesn't it has to be not so dumb that it breaks suspension of disbelief. And I think even the cool factor combined with how like minimal it is, like story impact wise, him slumping over and him doing the sort of fly back doesn't actually change much, but it
Yeah, it
looks a lot
doesn't
cooler and
impact.
it's a lot more
Yeah,
fun.
yeah,
As
yeah.
well, I give a lot more lenience to animated shows because there's a certain level of style that's supposed to be there as opposed to more realistic like IRL sort of filmed shows. So even if
And
I don't
I'm
think it's
focusing way too much on like a minor nitpick. Like I just find it really interesting. I don't have a like, oh, this ruins Arcane.
0 out of 5 stars.
It's
Worst movie I've ever seen. Woke trash.
terribly written, utterly incompetent, not entertaining. That's great.
There's some great fights still ahead. So let's and Silco
Yeah,
has
let's
this
do it.
like, oh hey, what the?
Yeah,
He has
he's
that
like,
great.
it's
And if
like,
we
okay, it's all right. Punk. Oh, that's a great sound.
right,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
he's like,
those are
what the fuck?
three amazing sounds. Like crunch, crunch, crunch. Punk. Oh no, back exposure. Careful.
That's the other great thing. Like you'll have a scene where it's like some female superhero or whatever, and they just won't take any damage. So
Mm.
they came into the game and left invincibility on, and no one caught him until he had submitted the speed run.
Yeah.
But she's straight up taking shots, which is what's also great about Old Boy's fight scene, because he walks out of that looking horrible. He's got
Oh
knives
yeah.
sticking out of him. He's
That's one thing I always loved about the Daredevil fights. I really like Daredevil season 3. There's a scene where he's just training because he's like he's really out of shape. He got like a building fell on him or something insane. Like his nose and like his ears got plugged up, so he can't like hear or smell as well as he usually does to help him because he can't see. So they bring a boxer or something in to fight him because he wants to train. And they like pay the guy to like stay quiet or something like that. And he already got his hearing back at that point, but he's still not fully recovered. So he gets the upper hand on the guy, but eventually the guy managed like he gets one punch, and that like completely like disorients him because of how kind of like not in great shape he is, and that like messes his hearing back up again. And he's just training, and he's already taking damage. And of course, in the scenes where he is like in season 1, he's at like the top of his game and whatever. He gets really beaten up in a lot of those fights. It's just really great to see a hero struggling and overcoming that stuff.
yeah. This isn't related, but because I mentioned the hearing, it's kind of cool. Your ears are super important. Well, they can be super important in fights because what the thing that controls your balance is liquid in your ears, and if you fuck that
Mm.
up, you fall over. And there's a cool. It'll sound a little crazy, but there's this flap I learned. The whole point of it is to just fuck with the liquid in the ear. I've tried it in an actual fight once and it actually worked.
Oh, sick.
So you can just straight up knock a guy over with this flap, and that's probably what happens in a lot of the. Part of it is with like the slap fights. It's named Billy Kamansky or whatever, where he just this fucking like the first guy she decked out just hits him and he go and it's just probably the force. But if you get a proper you have to do it like a hand position stuff, but it's not like a difficult thing to do. So you can just accidentally fucking knock someone over. I'll show it to you sometime. But
Sure,
yeah,
yeah. Crunch. I love these sounds, man.
yeah, sound design on point.
Yeah, sounds are freaking hard to do.
Have you ever seen the like the I've been getting really into the sort of the behind the scenes sound editions. Like, okay, we're going to do all the sounds from Mortal Kombat. Here's how we do a brain spleen ripped out of a skull.
Dude, I love that stuff, man. Like when me and Steve did those for Glitch Dash, and then
Yeah.
I did a bunch for like games I did after that. Like it's tons of fun because you're just like taking random stuff and you're like scrunching it together and like smacking stuff and like trying to make the perfect sound. Then you take those and then you layer them and you do effects on them and stuff. It's just so cool. It's so hard to do.
It's the only part of like the filmmaking behind like the behind the scenes how the film was made is actually interesting nowadays. To be fair, I think the only one I've seen recently that's not sound is like Jon Favreau talking about Lion King because of
Oh yeah,
YMS. And it's the dumbest
yeah.
thing in the world, and
Let's make a
nothing of value is gained.
documentary.
We're going to film it like a documentary, but we're going to try and recreate shots from the animated original, and
And it's in Unity. Like it doesn't make any sense.
like I don't mind them picking an artistic choice and them trying it out and it doesn't work. But if you're going to do that, stick to it. And the hilarious thing, which YMS points out, is that there's already been a movie using the software to create a documentary style film.
Oh, legit?
Yeah, Shark Tales, I think it was. Or no, what? No, Shark Tales is the other one. I'm thinking of the Penguin Surfer one. It was basically the same tech,
Oh,
and it was filmed like a documentary.
hmm.
What John Favreau should have done if he wanted the documentary was get what's his name from Britain. Scar, having now killed Mufasa, takes over the pride, sending Simba into the wilderness to die. Simba has now met with a warthog with a
It's
penchant for
realistic.
flatulence.
They do it, but they do the realistic version. Simba just goes and like eats Timon and Pumbaa.
Simone. Oh, yeah, but just stop remaking shits. The
Yeah,
first ones were fucking masterpieces. They don't need a remake.
I think we should like make our own shows and movies and get like Kickstarters and stuff.
Well, apparently we can do it on only a few
Seven thousand
$1,000.
dollars. Yep, yep.
Speaking of which, Primer, we're going to do a thing on that. I've seen it now.
Absolutely.
Talk about it. But let's watch a bit more of this fight scene.
Max told me earlier how much he hates the movie.
That's not what I said.
Oh, nice.
There's Vander being supportive dad.
Based.
Once again, using environment to her benefit, but also really struggling.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it gets pretty choppy with the brief pause and plays, but that's okay. I can appreciate the sound design.
And Milo, who sort of has been fucking, he's been a bit of he's been receiving a lot of sort of negativity, so to speak. I'm not sure what the word
It
is.
has been, yeah. Some negative feedback, I guess. Not a lot of support.
Yeah. And then when
To be
Spander
fair,
gives him a
like
little bit of support, let's see how well he
he
does.
yeah, and he hasn't been super supportive of others. You know, like he's been pretty arrogant, but at the same time, it's
He's
like we talked
continuing the
about Milo.
cycle.
Yeah.
Break the cycle.
Yeah.
Become crab.
Become crab.
Listen, in life there are two choices. Return to
Death and
monkey
crab.
or evolve into crab. Would you rather have pincers or tails? Or claws or what the fuck are crab hands called?
I don't know. Chomps.
I think it's claw.
Hey, he's working away. He's getting him out. Oh. Oof.
Notice how she takes the headshot to avoid the knife.
Ah, interesting. Pretty cool.
Also, um, what's it? Also, I did look for it. I think it's less apparent than it could be. It'll be a bit of a minor nitpick later. But notice how she blocks with her face.
It kind of froze the frame.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
blocking with her face comes up later as sort of a piece of character. This becomes sort of important later. So when I've rewatched
Mm.
it a few times, I've tried to find evidence of her not blocking and letting herself get hit in the face or whatever. I have noticed she has it seems like she prefers to dodge. There's a headshot earlier that she dodges instead of blocking. But generally, if you could dodge, you should dodge and not block. Um,
Mm.
I think they could have done a bit more for it to be a little bit more apparent because of sort of how it's not super important, but because it comes up in the dialogue a few times, they could have done it.
And the main jujitsu teacher, he does like a whole bunch of martial arts, and he does a lot of like he's done like Muay Thai and MMA type stuff. He teaches that a little bit too. And he was saying that like you basically can't dodge in, like a live fight. Like that's why they always like keep their hands up and kind of cover their faces if they're not actively striking. Like if they go in for a shot, like a takedown, they'll like cover their head like that. Um, but I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. Like maybe it like depends. Like maybe the more skilled you are, the more you can dodge. I don't know.
Well, I dodging is always better, but there's a reason. It's hard, right? To be fair, we see people like Muhammad Ali was really known for his dodges. If you watch fights with him, his
Mm.
head's just bobbing and weaving out of punches way. Now,
Oh, interesting.
be fair, he's boxing and fighting another boxer, right? If you're in a street fight, there aren't rules like there are in a boxing.
True.
And most times you're getting to street fights are not going to be people with high technical skills, right? So like a lot of people will just go in for the tackle, which is a bit of a pain in the ass to. They're not highly technical, so they try and get in a lot closer. So I can see how it would be harder to dodge when uh, the technical term is MAAI, which is the distance that exists between you and the other fighter,
Mm.
which should between two skilled opponents there should be like an average that's pretty clear, and then in order to strike, people will try to mess with the distance, and that's sort of how the fight goes. Um, so there is a bit more distance and more there's more distance work like professional fights than there are in street fights,
Mm.
and there's also less rule, right? Like
See,
it,
I know very little about striking because primarily do grappling, which is you're 90% of the time. Well, let's say almost 100% of the time there's some kind of contact going on. Even in stand up, you got grips or something, and ground is you're you're on top of the guy, so no, there's not really distance. Other than like create a space to put him in it is kind of the thing that our one teacher says a lot.
yeah,
But
with a lot of
I know
striking
from like sword
styles,
fighting that there's like tempo, and
I prefer striking styles. Um,
you want to
Personally,
learn
I
striking
like them
eventually.
better. Dodging, uh, it's a lot more. You have to have a lot of pieces in place properly to do it, and there has to be right because a lot of dodging isn't just like if you're dodging a punch to the head like Muhammad Ali, right? It's not just your head and neck muscles that are working to do that dodge. It's your feet positioning, you're moving your torso, your shoulders, like everything has to move and be good at doing it in order to do it.
Mm.
So it Be very difficult to pull, and you have to be very conscious of spacing as well. Because if you like pull back your head a couple centimeters, and that's your misjudge, and the fist comes further a few centimeters further than you thought it was, that's making contact.
Yeah, that's not good news.
Right? So I mean, do- dodging
So,
isn't the sort of shouldn't be the entirety of your plan. It shouldn't even be the main focus of your plan. It's a lot easier to block than it is to dodge.
unrelated, but have you done much grappling?
Not a whole lot of grappling. Most of what I did was striking. Uh,
Is it just like preference because you've done it more, or do you think that it's just more effective, or like
I think grappling might act. I think grappling might be more effective.
I'm not
um,
sure about that because like in jujitsu, like in strict jujitsu, positions that would be good in jujitsu aren't actually good if you can get if punching is in play. Closed guard is a fine position to be in jujitsu, but in MMA, you got closed guard, you got your legs are controlling the guy. He can punch you. He's still on top. He still has the leverage to punch you. So it's not a
the thing about punches
you,
is you have
you
to.
need both. I think you just need both
Like,
personally.
if your question is, should we have both or only one? My answer is going to be both.
But I'm not sure. I'm not sure how crucial grappling is if you incorporate any amount of striking. Because if you can like if you can get a better punch in quickly, I don't know. Maybe like
So in order
maybe if
for
you get a good punch in, but the other guy pulls a double leg and takes you down and chokes you out or something, then yeah. But then it's like I don't know. I
the
don't
thing
know. I just don't
about
know.
punching and striking styles is a punch isn't good. In order for a punch to be good, it has to hit like a certain spot.
Mm.
People are like video game bosses. They have weak points. And if you hit anywhere that's not the weak points, it's not a huge deal. Like if you punch someone in the shoulder, uh, that's not going to that's not really going to do a whole lot for you in a fight. It'll cause some pain and it'll hurt you the next day a fair bit. But if you got someone like an arm, like in like an arm lock or something, where in order to get out of it they have to break their arm, and the best thing you can do is like hit a shoulder, you're fucked.
Mm.
Now to be fair, um, I say grappling might be better. What really it comes down to is who is the better individual fighter.
Yeah,
Someone good at striking is
makes
going to
sense.
beat someone bad at grappling 10 times out of 10. Uh, but grappling is, I think, a very important component, especially for one-on-one fights, which ideally all of your fights should be. But
For
here's
sure.
so this fight here would be a good example of where grappling would be a very bad idea,
Yeah,
right? Because if she's grappling one of these people, one of the other guys is just going to come up and stab him.
yeah.
So I'd say striking styles are a bit more versatile. Um, so I think one-on-one grappling tends to have an advantage. And then also it depends on which grappling style versus which striking style. There's some real trash kung fu striking styles,
Mm.
and I'm sure equally there's some trash uh, uh, grappling styles, right? In terms of striking,
Yeah,
uh,
I would think so.
like Muay Thai is a very very good striking style.
Yeah, that's what I would want to learn if I did any striking.
Yeah, I've done some Muay Thai. Uh, it, it's a lot better because it incorporates more forms of striking. You can use elbows
Right.
and knees as opposed to like kickboxing or karate where you don't have knees. Well, some karates probably use, but the one I did not incorporate knees into sparring. But yeah, let's watch more Arcane. I feel like we went on a bit of a tangent.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting though. I want to know more about that.
I'll tell you what. You want to 1v1 me?
Yes.
Right, and this
Love
is
to.
Deckard's still fucking passed out in the corner here. But this is a great scene because it really sort of displays the dynamics very quickly. Savika gets up and she gets ready to fight,
Yeah. She's like, I'm
indicating
gonna freaking take this girl down.
indicating that she has she's a very responsible leader and she has discipline, as as one of as South Park would say. Silco stops him because he wants to do something else. Once
Oh my
again, everything
gosh.
we need to know in the eyes.
Yeah.
Everyone sees that scene and knows, oh, that dude's addicted.
Yeah, he's like, I need it.
Also, this guy
Wow.
is real shredded.
Pretty shredded. He's a lean af.
Right, and now we have like the stamina is running out. Doesn't look too good. Finding a
So
big shredded
okay,
boy.
hold on. After one shimmer, you're addicted.
Seems like it.
Wow.
And it's not. This isn't on
Wow,
like.
wow,
I
wow.
think I can't remember what it was for. And to be fair, I think I've heard this on TYT back when I watched them. So so maybe I need to looking at some of their practices now. I'm not sure how reliable they ever were, but uh, they talked about a study on I think it was cocaine, where it will fuck with your brain paths or something.
Mm, instantly, eh?
And to be
Apparently,
fair,
if
a
you
lot of
if you
that's
smoke
determined on if
meth,
you have
that
addictive personality or not. So
isn't like if you smoke meth, you're pretty much like almost instantly addicted.
I'm gonna guess that it probably has to do with a fair bit with personality types. But
So,
because there's people who have addictive personalities and non-addictive personalities. Certain people are more prone to get addicted than. So there's probably
know
people who
that.
exist on such an extreme end of the non-addictive scale that they can take anything without getting addicted to it. Uh, but I would say most people watching the show, I would suggest not doing that.
Well, obviously.
I think uh, there's some that are more highly addictive than others. Meth is probably one of the good examples of highly addictive, right?
Yeah.
Opioids are a pretty good example. Though to be fair, you take like you take a bottle or two before it becomes noticeable. But is that just
Mm.
because that's when you ran out, or would one do it? Either way, there's
I'm
stuff that's
gonna
highly addictive, and there's people who will get addicted to stuff after only doing it once.
I'm gonna be right back real quick. Just give me 2 minutes.
Okay, I will talk about something while you're gone. Okay, everybody, we'll finish up this. But the main point is, um, this is addictive, and a person getting addicted to something off of one doing it one time, especially Deckard, who at this point we've seen has very low willpower. Well, I'm not sure that's fair. Hold on a second, because he does well. I think it is right. He has the fight with Vi, and she basically scares him into running away at the end. And then he has the interview with Silco, where he basically does whatever he can to get him not mad at him. And then we have the third piece where Silco's like, "Oh, you should take this," and he looks around. He's like, "Oh, okay, here we go." So he's probably has a bit of a personality that's not super great. He's one of those people who succumb to peer pressure, so to speak. So it's
So,
probably. Oh, are you back?
did you finish catching up on super chats?
I finished and regular chats.
Nice.
I was just saying, Deckard also seems to be a person with low willpower, which would indicate uh, he's more. What's it called when you're more likely to do something?
Predisposed.
Yeah, he's probably more predisposed to developing addictive tendency.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
You eating something?
No, I did. I'm just picking up a couple little bits here off the ribs.
The human ribs?
Yes, man flesh.
That's the problem with you lizards. You're all a bunch of baby eaters.
Listen, you're a homophobic istophobe, okay?
That is racist against lizard people. But yeah, she seems injured. She's fallen back. She's running out of stamina. You can see she's already developing like a bit of a black eye up there, and on the cheek too. Not doing well.
Damn.
I don't know. That was kind of a nice effect. I don't know if you caught that. I'll mute it so he can talk while he's. But when he shatters the glass, there's tons of like sparkles everywhere, and they're like the same color as well. Right in that 1 second.
It's interesting that chromatic aberration is used.
You want to tell the audience what chromatic aberration is?
It's like when, like, you split off like the red and the blue a bit, but like it almost looked like he had like a purple outline around him, like a little purple echo of him. As he took it.
Yeah. Note, one, his transformation's great. It feels like an actual werewolf transformation. How they would do something like that, which is also great because he's not Warwick. But it's very sort of a very violent transition, and the screams sort of mix with it that give it that sound to it. Also, sort of relay the violent nature of it. And then here, oh, he has that pinky purple eyes. I wonder if that relates to something else we know, which Andrew probably doesn't because he's not familiar with League.
I guess not.
I would tell you it, but you could probably figure it. It probably spoils something. It spoils stuff that happens later. But if you're a League viewer, you could figure something out here. What a great way to introduce him. Right, on one hand,
He's like, oh no.
we've built this guy up over the course of the thing. And two, we're introduced with these like janky movements. And there's actual this is why in like horror games they have like those really janky characters who do those sharp sudden movements. It's because your brain picks up on that's not natural. Right?
Yeah.
And that's why the fear response works there. I think it's probably might be related to Dust too a bit. Where like if you saw someone in real life fucking making those janky movements, say, okay, that person is sick with something. Whether mentally or physically, I don't know, but I ain't going near that.
Yep.
Right? And we've seen him like tear people apart, so we've really built him up. And then he just walks in and casually throws a dude over the side. Well,
yeah, he's like cricking his neck and stuff.
Yeah, they're building him up really good.
Absolutely. Very much like yeah, Vi, you don't want to be there. You don't.
But Vi is the hero, and she has
she'll
to,
be, which
she
means
has to slay the dragon and save her father from the underworld.
she'll pull through, right? Like she'll obviously beat him.
Where's the faith? Gotta have faith. It'd be nice.
Yeah, he should have just said, Milo, take your time. We're good. Vi's totally got this.
You know what it is, Andrew? It's sexism. Just because Vi's a woman.
Yeah, he's like, you know what? If that was Clagger, he'd totally frick that guy up.
Have you ever seen Code Ment? It's an abridged series by a guy named Purple Eyes.
No.
There's a great scene where Lelouch is. It's an abridged, so it's a real show that they've taken and dubbed over. But Lelouch's sister is a disabled. She's like a disabled, paralyzed from like the waist down, blind girl, and she's hanging from a bomb. And he turns to Lelouch turns to Suzuko. I think his name's Suzuko, who's like this super athletic. Basically, he's kind of like a Captain America.
Okay.
And he tells her he needs to save his sister, and he says, "I can't do that." And he says, "Why not?" And he says, "This is the damsel in distress trope. I refuse to be a part of it." And they have this like minute of back and forth where he's like, yes, I understand the concepts of the tropes and how this could lead to it, but my sister, I is in real danger and will die. And like the sister's like, no, please save me. He's like, no, I'm sorry. I see a strong, handy, capable woman.
Oh no. That's amazing.
It's
It's amazing.
insane. But yeah, here's the fight.
Oh wow, Beige actually goes for it.
Yeah,
Oh
and
no.
the pause here is really great because it gives us like a few seconds, like take it in, figure out what side what we think's going to happen. It gives us time to think about what we believe's going to happen, and then suddenly, in a moment,
Oh,
we have the
oh
answer.
no.
Now, now this is actually physically impossible. Your head would just pop off.
Yeah, so she's dead.
Now, of course, it's a show, right?
Roll
This is what I mean
credits.
about like the suspension. Like you can be a little silly, not silly, but you can exaggerate things on a show, right? There's been a million fucking animes that
It's
have
tough,
this
man.
exact fucking grab,
It's
and
tough.
uh,
Tough.
I just every time I see it, I think of a show I watched for the or it was a post I read from a doctor who went through how much force would be needed to exert upon your head to make it pop off.
Oh my goodness.
But still, this I think this is a really good example of where you can stretch reality and it's not a big deal. It's only an issue when you have a character like is over the top, takes everyone down, never takes any sort of damage whatsoever, and then they're portrayed as like a regular person. Right? If Iron Man comes in and deflects bullets, it's not a big deal. If some
I
dude who's just
mean,
some guy walks in and deflects bullets, it is. Right? And I think this is a great example.
maybe I maybe, but like, like everything that you show visually to the or like anything that happens, it's like, well, okay, so this is possible now, right? Like like if Vi were to get like executed or something and they like hung her, it's like, well, she'll be fine. She can survive that.
I think that's
Right?
going a
Like,
bit far.
you know what I mean? It's like it's like it depends. It really like maybe it's fine in this case, but like I think on principle, I would be very hesitant to just be like, yeah, I'll allow it, just because like when
I
you
think
show
most.
something, there's it's like when there's like that license of like we can be a little bit can exaggerate, then it's like, well, then how will I know that like any punch or any dodge or anything like that is actually what would happen, or if we're just using our imagination here and maybe it didn't quite happen actually like that, like, you know what I mean? It's like it's not quite that easy. I would say it's a little bit. Maybe it's fine. Maybe I'm exaggerating the point here, but
I'm in
I
love
don't
with
know.
you. I think you're being a little autistic, my friend, with this. Listen, I
That's
mean,
fine.
I get
You're probably
like if
right.
you have a show, uh, like if you have a show or a book or something, and everyone's just punching each other, nothing's doing anything. Like okay, then it gets a bit silly. But like it's not like he's holding her, he's choking her. This is not a good position for her to be in.
Yeah,
If we like brought in a
and I
doctor to tell us what is and isn't physically possible on literally everything, couldn't do anything fun. It'd be
yeah, and to clarify, I'm not bothered at all by this.
I'm
Just, I guess, like a counterpoint that
I'm saying we can stretch
might
it
be
a little
interesting.
bit. Not a lot, just a little, and it's not that big of a deal. Right? I don't think most people when they see this scene think well, hold on a second. What are the actual physiological and physics implications of this particular pose?
I mean,
Right?
I
I've
guess,
seen this
but at
scene
the same time,
I've seen
like,
this exact pose like hundreds of times. It never occurred to me that this might not be physically possible until I looked up something completely separate and did a little look into it. Because there are, to be fair, there are people you can hang from like your head and it's not a big deal. Um, there are examples of people doing this. Like there's there's like a Shaolin monks. There's a monk sect that does this thing where they actually hang from nooses. But how it
Oh,
works is like they hang from like the chin, and so it's not and like the way they hang prevents them from like choking or anything.
see.
Right? And to be fair, I don't actually know the physics behind this. Right? I read a forum post by
Yeah.
a person who said he was a doctor, and said by grabbing the throat there isn't enough there to hold it, and it would fuck up your spinal cord. That
Mm.
that could be bullshit, right? And by the same token, the monk sect that I saw a video of might also be bullshit. So who knows about
Yeah,
your
no, that
reality's
makes
a
sense because
lie.
you probably
Believe nothing.
pretty much it's basically a neck crank at
Yeah.
that point. Her chin would just like go up like reverse hanging, and then her back would probably break. But yeah, um, and yeah, like I don't care about the specific scene in terms of like nitpicking the point. Um, and I don't know if there's a threshold or not, but I think there's a great value in being like, look, this is exactly what these people can and can't do. And maybe it doesn't matter here, but it's what let me. I'm trying to think of something that's more versus less consistent. Like, I don't know. I don't know if Avatar is all that consistent. I don't remember, but I don't know what's something like Mistborn is super consistent, but I just don't know it well enough. Maybe like I don't know, like original trilogy of Star Wars or something, right? Like you don't have um like
I would
if
agree if we had another scene after this where someone did this like grabbed a person by the neck and lifted up and the head popped off. Then I would
yeah,
agree
yeah,
there's an issue. But typically and typically when this is done in most animes, this is just something people can do and no one ever really thinks
yeah,
about it further than that. So I
yeah.
think
And
as
I
long
and
as long as the stuff isn't so over the top that it is unbelievable in the context of the story and the stuff is doing damage of some sort, I think it's permissible.
yeah, and I'm not as I don't care so much about this particular scene. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. It doesn't matter enough, I guess. But I guess I would just keep it in mind for future scenes. I'd want to keep track of how much is allowed, and I want to keep track of whether there are contradictions because of that or not. If there aren't, then yeah, maybe it's all fine.
Also, another thing I want to talk about is the framing of the this jump as well.
This is basically a Dutch angle,
Is it?
is it?
I
I
mean,
think it
he's
technically
straight
is.
up. She's straight up.
I guess it's more so the perspective. It's bottom
Yeah,
up.
we're looking up at them. But
Yeah,
uh,
and
here's why I love this framing so much. Right? We've had him who has that great entrance where he throws the dude over the edge. We've had Vi this whole time beating up people who are bigger and stronger than her, and then they have this jump, right, which you can see earlier, and she's
yeah,
the higher person. She's up at the top, so she towers over Deckard in that scene,
yes,
which
yeah,
indicates a power imbalance. And as she comes down, it has that immediate catch, and we have this scene where she's still higher up, sort of indicating her as like the she's sort of the big fighter of their group, and this is reinforcing it. But she's clearly losing the fights. And then we have Deckard is who is above us in our point of view. We're looking up at him in this shot, and he's looking straight to camera. Like, what the fuck you gonna do? I got your big champion here. What the fuck are you gonna do?
yeah. It reminds me
Go
of
ahead,
the way
Paige.
that they draw Toph in Avatar because she's blind. Like she never looks at what she's talking to or directing at. She might point to it, but she doesn't really care to look at what she's talking to because she doesn't see. But in this case, he's not really looking because he just doesn't really care, right? He's either like mentally kind of not in control, and also he's so freaking strong that it doesn't matter whether he's gonna like look her in the eye and like intimidate her or not. It's more intimidating that he's like, eh,
He catches her
like you
without
said, what are
looking
you
at
gonna
her,
do?
and then he's going
Yeah.
to turn to her like a little slowly. Here's a fun fact about Avatar, though. Originally Toph was going to be like a big, strong, burly man.
Oh, really?
Yes, Toph that they
Interesting.
went with is actually based off of a real blind girl martial artist
Oh,
that they switched to, because I think she has some relevance to the Mantis style, which is what her rock bending is based off of. Unlike all the
hmm,
other Earthbenders who use a different Shaolin style,
interesting.
and that's why in the theater scene
Boulder is conflicted.
he is scared. The boulder is over his confliction.
I love it.
But this is
There's
also
some good
why
stuff in
in the theater scene they have the actor
there.
who
Oh
plays
yeah.
Toph as the big burly man. But yeah,
Oh, I love that. I love that episode so much.
oh, it's such a good episode. But yeah, final thought before we start playing again. What the framing of this scene does, what's so great about it is they build by up to this climax, and then immediately undercut her by this fucking monster dude.
Hmm.
It's just great
Like
because
such a
going in, we have like the statements earlier from Vi, like I've never seen anything like this, and he's throwing a dude, so he's very scary. And so to combat this, to have that sort of that peak of fear or suspense in the audience, is they build her up as much as possible right before the second that he catches her, so that we're like, oh, maybe she does have a chance, and then immediately undercuts it. Which great roller coaster of choices. But let's see how this plays
yeah.
out.
Oh, dang.
This is our
Oh,
moment.
those are weapons. Now she's gonna save the day, and she's gonna be all the good things will happen. And Clagger's gonna get that door open. He's gonna get Vander out of there. It's gonna be great.
So
Nice.
buying time. Vander's almost out. Did good pick. The walk is a little fun. Great line. And once again, right? Powder is about to use the blue crystal. We cut back to
Yeah.
this for a reinforcement of how powerful these things are.
My thought here is like, well, these two are both gonna get arrested. Was
It's
that the
beginning to
sorcerer guy
believe. Use the force, Chase.
there? Stay on target.
Stay on target.
Ace, you turned off your targeting computer. What's wrong?
Right, once again, this is the thing she's going to be using. We see
Yep.
how underfoot's a great line.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
Right? We're seeing how powerful these stones are and what they can do. That they have weird properties.
Oh, it totally just like teleported that thing a little bit. That's
Yeah.
cool.
And that's pretty much the entire summation of his entire character and his opposition. Just because you can do something
Yeah.
doesn't mean.
Would he say like, is that not kind of on the nose? Like that kind of breaks the what we've seeing of it being nice and subtle. Now he just says it.
Well, he is also a professor, and they're inclined to tell their students everything they're thinking at the moment.
True.
And to be fair, he doesn't complete the sentence.
He
Like,
he he
uh,
he he came in there like, I'm gonna freaking arrest these people. like, because he did say like, well, doesn't matter if I can or not, or something like that. Like he doesn't say no, I can't stabilize it. He says like his whole issue isn't if you can stabilize it or not, right? Like this shouldn't
To be
convince him.
fair, right, he's probably assuming walking in that's going to explode. Because that's what happened literally yesterday,
Yeah.
right? And just because he could theoretically, because he doesn't say he could do it either. He says,
True.
"Why would I?" Which could also mean he's never even thought of whether or not he could have. He may
Yeah.
genuinely not know whether or not it's possible. And
Yeah.
even if it was possible, there's no indication that in one day Jason Victor could have figured it out.
So maybe that gives them some credibility, the fact that they were able to do it
Yeah.
in that short a time. Maybe the time scale is the crucial part.
And he walks in and he has this moment like, "You've actually done it, Noel." And so there's probably two things happening here, right? If once again we can tell what's happening just by looking at the facial expressions, right? He comes in angry. Hold on a second, they've actually done it. This is insane. They've actually done it,
Mustache twitch.
right? There's sort of the amazed wonderment and probably a little bit of pride because he is their teacher, right? Then the downward look, like he's remembering something. That's because right, and he thinks about it for a second, and he's like, "Yeah, no, I'm not sure this is actually a good thing." He comes down against it.
Oh, when did she get here?
She's probably always here. She was here earlier, and she led the guard away.
Makes sense.
She probably stuck around, right? And then Heimerdinger's here because this is the academy where he's the head of the academy. Copyright TM OC, do not steal. Next tech. Then we have triumphant music.
Well, she does her version of I had Hex Tech, which, yeah, this is like, okay, this is why we've been seeing Jace do it, right? Well, not only, but like, there's no way that Powder can harness this stuff, like how hard it was for them to do it, right? Like,
There's
gonna
also
go
that.
bad.
So there's all the hints are there about how this is going to go. There's also a
Yeah.
lot to indicate narratively that would make sense, right? We have this whole build up from the previous episodes. Your bombs are going to work eventually,
Yeah.
that's when you'll be useful, right? And then we
Doesn't
have
she stops using bombs entirely, doesn't she?
um, she doesn't stop using them. There's just never another opportunity, really.
Okay.
I mean, the only other time I can think of is probably when the guards are going after them, or the boys in blue enforcers, right? And
Oh
that's when they're
well.
laying low. So wouldn't surprise me if she didn't take bombs with her while she was laying low, right?
Sure.
But yeah, we have this build up where like it's going to work. Everything on their end seems to be going to shit. This is the moment where it will need to work and save everyone. Typically in narratives, this is how it goes, which adds to it, right?
Interestingly, though, Vi
And
already
then
kind of took care of it, right? Like Vi has given them maybe like a second of safety, and maybe that's not enough. But in terms of like the tempo, like we saw them like kind of at that chill point. It's like, okay, maybe we have a shot here, right? We close the door, he's out, we can go.
yeah, so I read a YouTube comment post where guys wrote a paragraph about how definitely they weren't safe and what powder did was absolutely necessary, and it just came
Oh,
off like a bunch of motivated reasoning. Now we'll talk about this in a bit, but this is going to be an issue with how spacing works. It's unclear what floor they're on some of the time.
mm,
Um, so I think at this point that probably up to interpretation more. You could see, I think the scene works better if you take it as we were right there, man. Which also, if you haven't seen Smiling Friends, you should. Great. Um, but from Powder's perspective, right? Because Powder doesn't know what's happening in there. And to be fair, as the audience, we don't know if they have like guards around the place or whether or not they can escape. This is if the bomb was going to work. Narratively speaking, this is the moment in which the bomb will work.
Yeah.
And the final piece is we have Jace and Victor making this thing work, even though it exploded before and was unstable before. They've somehow managed to get it all to work, which would suggest a parallel in the plot A story of Powder doing everything correctly. So we know what
Maybe.
happens next, but I'm saying on first time viewing it, it is not 100% clear that this will not work. Right? And there's enough there,
So yeah.
and you don't have to make it
'Cause
definitive.
you could
You just
you
have to
could
put
like
enough there for it to create suspense, and I think they do that.
like a typical viewer's standpoint, you could just like think like, oh, cool, she's gonna get lucky and the thing is gonna be magic and just work for some reason.
And typically that's how it would go in any other show,
Yeah,
right?
media.
And that's why I think the explosion's so great when it happens, but we'll talk about it when we get there.
Yes.
Not only is that an adorable scene, it's a nice touch, because every time Vi says that to her, or says something like that to her, she presses her head to her head.
Mm.
Right? So this is...
But also, like, look at that thing, like, it looks like a demon.
What do
Like,
you mean? It's
legit,
a
like,
cute little monkey man.
yeah, okay. No, it looks like she's, it's very ironic in hindsight, right? It's like, it's not cute, like, she's, she's
Listen,
like
Andrew,
like,
maybe in your
visually, you
first
know what I
world
mean?
country, where you
Yeah.
can afford felt and plush, might not be up to your standards, but here
Oh,
in Zon, we got metal.
she designed it to look more like it looked more cute before. She made it more spooky.
Well, to be fair, she did rip the head off, so I mean, she's working with what she got, okay?
I mean, I think it makes sense that she would want to make it look more spooky as a bomb, but like it's just like ironic that like you just like adorable little girl is just like, oh come on, you gotta work, and then this like demonic looking ape bomb that she's holding.
Well, maybe Monkey isn't as cute as he could be, but Powder sure is. And as well, I just
But
wanted to point
it's
out
like
the
it's
head
like an
touch is a repetitive motif that's occurring, and I thought it was a nice touch to add.
yeah.
It also complains like, no, listen, you really gotta work, and I'm putting all my faith in you. Don't disappoint me, like all my shares in Enron. That's a data joke I don't think anyone will get.
I have no idea.
Enron was
Guessing
like
it's
it was like a tech company that did like some illegal shit and went under.
oh.
So if you had any shares of Enron, they became worthless. There's a great joke in the superhero movie with the Spider-Man parody with Drake Bell, where Drake is Bruce Wayne, but the dying advice his father gives him is take all the shares, all the money out of a worthless company called Google, invest it all into Enron,
Oh
and that's why he's
no.
poor at the beginning of the movie, which was a nice touch.
Oh, that's
But yeah,
amazing.
so
It's hilarious.
we have this very heartfelt scene where she's really trying to believe in the monkey. Notice how they use Phillips head screws because they're too poor to afford Robinson.
Wow. Why
Robinson,
would you ever use Robinson?
because it's objectively the best screw.
Come on.
It's
Nonsense.
Listen. The problem with Phillips is you'll scrape off the sides of it, and it'll eventually become unusable.
And you don't scrape off Robinson? Okay, come on.
Not
Come on.
nearly as easily.
Phillips is clearly the peak screw head.
Listen, if we're worried about just scraping, flatheads are probably the best.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Phillips head are
But
totally the best. Wait, hold on. Wait. Is Phillips lacrosse?
Phillips is the cross,
Lacrosse.
flatheads are the
Okay.
flats, Robinsons are the
Flat,
squares.
Heads are the superior screw head, 100%, no question.
Alright, fine. I'll give you flatheads, but Robinson is a second then.
Fair.
It's also a Canadian invention,
Ah,
I
neat.
think. Don't quote me.
I will. I'm gonna go tell everyone. Max said
Well,
it's
great.
Canadian.
Next episode, I want to have to come out at the beginning again and say, listen, something
Max, all your viewers, all your super chats are gonna be. He's wrong. Why would you say it's not Canadian? It's Swedish or
the
something.
love of God. Okay. Google Chrome. Who invented Robinson screwdriver? Peter L. Robinson, a 27-year-old Canadian.
Based.
If
You have
it's wrong, it's
succeeded
Google's
in
fault
being
now.
correct.
And right now we have the rising tension again. He's busting through the door. Pieces are coming off. Vander's struggling. They got to brick through. It's the rising tension towards the climactic action. And it's cutting between all these three pieces to help facilitate that build. Same with the music too. It's also helping to build. Everything in the scene is working
My
towards that
gosh,
goal.
it's so.
Right? And just the desperation on that, just slamming the pipe into the wall. Nice touch.
Yeah.
Right? And she's covering her. Milo's almost there. I see what you're saying about the demonic monkey, Andrew.
Oh no, I changed my mind. It's kind of cute actually.
Red glowing eyes. He has the symbols of spikes just smashing against this highly explosive device. Decker's just like, what
I know
the
it's so
fuck?
dead. Nice.
Okay, and so I want to talk a little bit about this scene. We'll talk a bit more as we go through it. But we've had this. This has to work. And what this scene I think is doing a great job of great might be a bit, but what it's doing a good job of is trying to trick the audience into understanding this event as a dichotomy between the horrible thing happening, being bomb doesn't work, and the good thing happening, being the bomb works, at least in terms of powder, which is a false dichotomy,
Absolutely.
as we all know. But if you people do like brains are kind of seems like people love dichotomies. It's just easier to process because there's less options. But it's doing a good job of building up that dichotomy. So, and what will really work is because once you have this baseline of what you think the worst possible thing is, they're going to do something worse. It helps keep you unprepared for what's about to happen, right? And
Can
so
we
this
just
whole
appreciate the like the facial expressions there between Milo and Vander? Just that like smile, like I did it, and him just like, yeah, you did it.
yeah, we can
You did
watch
good.
this a bit. But everything now is setting up for the. They have a few seconds to set up for. Oh, there's the face. There's the. We were right there, man. But now they've sort of pivoted to, oh great, the bomb's not working, and they're going to escape, which is good. But Powder's not going to have this big victory she wants, right? Which is kind of like what's becoming sort of our worst case scenario here. Which is absolutely not going to be what what happens. And we have a slight slowdown. I love the way this
Oh,
explosion is structured. Right? We have the slight slowdown, like everything is going to be okay. Tick, boom. And as they go through the booms, they're going to do 3 separate shots.
oh, can you backtrack because it
Sure. And what's great about these shots
froze up?
And so what's great about that is we have this initial explosion, which should, if you've built this dichotomy where this is going to work, this is a good moment, right? This is a peak good moment. And then it looks like if we pull back, I'll put it on mute so we can talk. Well, I can talk while the scene happens. But if you look at the explosion, it clearly hits Deckard, which is exactly what you wanted it to do. And the way the explosion is structured looks like it hits Deckard hardest, which is also exactly what we wanted to do. So it looks like everything's coming up powder, which is why I love how this explosion is sort of structured, right? Because then immediately after, it has this hit. And the first thought is, hold on, this seems a bit bigger than what we needed. But
Yep.
but it's not bad yet, right? Powder survives, right? She's not dead, she's not like eviscerated or anything. And she, as she falls, looks really happy about it. Well, not quite this scene, but we'll come back. Right? And they come back and they show it from a different angle. Right? There's Deckard getting hit. Savika jumps in the way. Boom, arm's gone.
Oh shoot.
Right? And this is great for a couple of reasons. One, it tells us a little bit about Savika, that she does have loyalty, despite betraying Vander. But two, this explosion is a lot bigger than we see, and it seems to get bigger every time we look at it. And it's incredibly dangerous because it just took out an arm.
Yep.
You're like, okay, this is
So
every
how is
time.
Powder not like? Because you have that shot of Powder flying amidst the energy. Like, is she just taking like the shockwave of it, or is she getting into that energy too?
She's
It looks
probably
like the
further
energy is
away.
around her.
That's what I think is happening. She's further away, and she's also protected by the actual stones a fair bit.
Yeah.
Whereas Savika's taking that blast full on, and even then, it doesn't hit her. It doesn't go far enough to hit her completely. Just take out her arm. Right, but every time we see this explosion from a different angle, it gets bigger and worse. Now it tilts again, and we get to see a third view of it. Once again, bigger and worse. And so we have this like melancholy music that'll come on while she's falling. But now we're sort of like, hold on a second. We've seen every angle except the one we care the most about.
Who was that? Was that just like some random dude, or?
So that is Singed. He's a character from League. He has plot armor. He's like a sort of a Mangala like character. Mangala from Nazi fame.
I
The
just
guy who
watched
did
a
all the
documentary about that guy last week.
Sorry, what was that?
I watched a documentary about that guy last week.
Okay, basically, that's what this character is. Right? There are
Wow.
probably some differences, but that's if you know who
See
Mangala is. The Angel of
the
Death, the scientist surgeon guy who experimented on all the twins and the Jews.
yeah, I know who Mengele is, but this Singe guy, is he the guy who later on is like the whole must survive or whatever?
Yes. Yeah, same guy.
Cool. Okay.
Which you might not notice a couple of times around. I don't think they do a super great job if you're not doing subtitles. But it doesn't, like, ruin anything. Now we get another explosion. Get another angle. It was at that moment she knew. Well, she didn't, but we do. Because we've seen this go through, like, everything just, it's like a box. And slowly we're unpackaging it. Deeper and deeper until we get to the worst part.
Oh.
Right? Because we have all the knowledge at this point now from those previous explosions to understand how dangerous one of these, because we had the one that flew earlier and destroyed the bottom half of the building. Right? Once again, we have a blue stone flying through there. How dangerous is this going to be? Slow motion, lightning everywhere, and we have that sort of whimsical music coming on. or those strings that Powder's been so accompanied by, sort of to reinforce that this is Powder's doing. And then everything falls apart.
Oof. Oh my goodness.
And we realize
Oh.
Powder has absolutely no idea what she just did.
Yeah.
And then we get the last explosion to really show how fucking massive this is.
Oh my goodness.
It also sets up for when Marcus shows up later.
Hmm.
And now we cut back to see the results of what she's done.
And that was all in Zon, right? Or was that topside?
Oh, this is on.
Okay. Fenrir's like, what the frick? What happened? Can this be? Oh no! My youths. Oh, and freaking, it didn't even kill Deckard.
It didn't. Which
My
pisses
goodness.
everyone off when they see it. Like, goddamn, that
Wow.
one guy. This explosion failed on everything it tried to do.
Yeah.
But also, it's important
Oh
that Deckard
man.
survives here because it sets up how powerful um, the Shimmer is in comparison to Hextech, right? Because the Shimmer needs
Ah.
to be a genuine threat to Hextech, right? And this is also super important because that third explosion that blows up the entire warehouse gets rid of Silco's entire supply of Shimmer. So both he and Jace at the end of this will be starting at level at 0, knowing how Hextech works, but having to build up their actual supply of it. Otherwise, Silco would have just given them all the Shimmer and immediately kicked everyone out. Because Hextech is the counter, because they counterbalance each other. But yeah, and he gets up. Silco's alive. Vika is down. Those two guys probably shouldn't be getting up.
Hmm.
I'm going to say that the way the fucking things exploded, they were under the explosion, and hopefully, and that's sort of how they do it.
That's tough.
But yeah, that's a little tough.
I'm happy to just say it. Like, it's a bit of a blunder. It's okay. It can happen.
Though to be fair, I mean, it's not, the Hextech didn't actually kill anyone. It took out Savika's arm. That's because she jumped in the way of it. Like Clagger
But
and
those guys were closer than anyone, and they didn't burn up.
sure, but no one burnt up is my point.
Well, Savika's arm did, and she was way farther away than they were.
Yeah, I would say she's jumping directly in front of the blast, whereas they didn't.
They didn't have to jump anywhere. They were already closer.
Well, I mean, it kind of looks like we could go back, but it looks like that that it's because it's lightning, it goes through air or whatever, as opposed to on the ground. Listen, it's not great.
It's not a big deal. I don't care if it makes honestly, I don't care if it like makes perfect sense or if it is in fact a blunder. Like, it doesn't do much as an issue
Yeah,
in this case. Like, and like, even if not, like, maybe they were covered by something. Like, maybe they were in an angle. Like,
yeah. The way
not
it
too
looked
concerned
like
about it.
was well, I think because a lot of it is there's like the initial explosion, and then it's the ball things are getting shot out and exploding on their own. So it may have just been that they, if you wanted to rationalize it, you would say they were at like the middle position of the parabolic equation to do the minimal amount of damage.
Yeah, yeah. It's like closing the distance or something. It's like it's like that red zone, like green, red, green. Like, maybe they were in that green zone or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they
Um,
probably it would have been better to do a bit more to fix it, but it
have
doesn't really
you
substantially
seen?
detract from the enjoyment of the piece. I don't think.
I'll ask you about this later, but have you seen The Prestige?
I have not. I watched
Haven't?
Primer
Okay.
for you. We'll get to Prestige later.
Okay, sure.
But yeah, this is so all three of them are going now. Vander's kind of realized the situation and is getting out. He's a strong boy. I think this scene is the reason why they had them get up.
Yeah.
So Vander the entire time is talking about how he won't fight anymore. And Silco has that
Mm,
line earlier, "I'll show you what you are." It turns out
oh.
Vander finally found something, a reason to fight.
And honestly, like,
And this is sort of a parallel of his entrance where he throws the guy off the bridge. Vander throws the guy off the bridge too.
so they're a lot more evenly matched.
Yeah,
At
they've
this
set up to
point,
be even. He doesn't have his gauntlets, but he's got some brass knuckles.
this to me is almost a good thing for Vander. Like, it's not like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, maybe it is not a good thing because he's driven by rage, but
Well,
like,
listen.
this
If
is
your
what he
kids,
should have been doing.
if someone gets your kids killed, or directly try, if Silco killed the kids, right? Powder may have technically done it, but he had ordered their execution. He put them in this situation to be killed. It's Silco's fault, right? And I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to take a moral stance, Andrew. That if someone murders two of your children, you get to be angry at them.
I agree. I think that's reasonable at that
Well,
point.
I'll see you next week to address my Twitter canceling.
Wait, Max, you're supposed to let the government take your kids.
Well, my position for years has been get rid of the kids. I'm tired of the think of the children argument. Just get rid of them all.
Oh no.
Though I've softened a bit on that. This show changed my mind.
What do you mean you softened it?
I'm pro
You're
children
you're
now.
you're joking. You're joking, right, Max? You're always pro children, right, Max?
I may have been anti children in the way that that people are like anti women voting as a meme, but we'll go.
Okay.
But like you know those people who, like go so many levels of irony deep. They'll like do canvassing and get like take away the right to vote on the ballot because it's funny.
Um,
That's kind of where
I
I was.
wasn't aware. Okay.
To be fair,
Well, um,
if we had an actual referendum on taking away women's right to vote, that would be hilarious. I think anyway. I think it'd be hilarious to watch all the talking heads losing their goddamn minds about how could this have happened.
yeah.
That was my argument for reparations. You've heard my
Let's
argument for reparations. Same
let's
thing.
just say if that did happen, I wouldn't be losing my mind.
Listen, maybe we need to listen. You know my position. Service guarantees citizenship. I think Heinlein had some good points, and we need to revisit them.
Hmm.
But yeah,
I don't know who that is, but based on our
Starship
conversation
Troopers.
last week, yeah. Right.
Right, and his whole the service guarantees you have to do like a couple years of service, and then you get the right to vote after you've done the service.
Gotcha.
You don't get the right to vote until you've done the service. And then there's
Yeah.
tons of lectures on why it is the way. But yeah, we can talk about that another time. Let's watch Vander kick some ass.
Ace.
But also,
Red pilled.
and this is what we talked about earlier about bad guys versus people doing bad things. This entire section is a refutation on Vander's ideology up to this point. His whole thing is, I don't want to fight because I don't want anyone to get hurt. But it's precisely because he didn't fight that two kids are now dead. So what the fuck do we do now? If he fights, he'll lose people he cares about. Apparently, if he doesn't fight, he will also lose people he cares about. Sort of a catch-22. So Andrew, if you could resolve all of moral philosophy for me real quick, that'd be real helpful.
Easy. A confession.
I don't know. Okay. And once again, this is sort of
Interesting.
reminding us of that first time we see it, right? That sort of bestial Vander on the bridge. You see a return to that.
Bestial, you say?
Yeah. If you're roaring, roaring, and
Yeah.
like he's got that fucking angry look in his eyes, and he's just slamming his fist.
Yep.
And so, ideologically, to some degree, this is kind of Silco's win. The whole point is, because he's forced Vander to abandon the principles he held,
Yeah,
and he
but I
has
mean,
shown
like,
him what he truly
I don't.
is.
Yeah, I don't think Vander necessarily had. It's like understandable, but yeah, like I don't know. So my take on this would be Silco did a like incredibly evil thing, right? Like you could never say that he was in the right here. However, this is exactly what Vander should have been doing. He should have been like, yeah, like we are in a predicament where it's like, you know, he made a mistake. It was my kids, therefore I might as well take responsibility for it, and for the sake of the people, that responsibility should probably be enough is enough. We're gonna, stand our ground. It is interesting that the catalyst for that is, the not so innocent mistake of a couple kids, right?
Yeah. This is why, like, the Joker is such a good villain, because Joker's win condition. One of the Joker's win condition is Batman kills him, so Batman can
Yeah,
never
but
really
like
stop him.
that's kind of, I don't know, like maybe it's not lame, but it's like, I mean, if you're attacking Batman, or if you're a threat and Batman is protecting Gotham by killing you, then Batman, like, well, depending on his like official, like I don't know how it necessarily works with respect to justice. Like maybe you can only kill someone who is threatening your life directly, and if the Joker doesn't do that, but he's threatening other people, if
Well,
you're not like
because
an official
Batman's big
soldier,
rule
maybe
is
you
he
shouldn't
doesn't
kill
kill
him. But
under any circumstance.
yeah, but if it's a matter of like self-defense, then it's not wrong,
Right.
like,
So
to do
there's,
that. I
I,
understand that it's his principle, but it's like breaking that principle isn't a bad thing. It's if you kill someone not in the circumstance of self-defense. If you kill an innocent person, it's then it's wrong for sure. Then it's murder. Or if you kill someone unjustified, then it's murder. I don't know how it applies to like this guy's gonna kill a bunch of other people if I don't kill him. I don't think that is. I'm not sure if that's justified or not. I honestly don't know
I think at this
if
point we're
that
doing
counts.
like a philosophical analysis of
Yeah,
what's going on. Where I'm doing a character analysis.
fair. Yeah, I
But yeah,
guess. Yeah, in that circumstance, then
I'm saying Vander has a philosophy, and his philosophy has, and Silco is saying that his philosophy is bad and dumb,
yeah,
and he has created a situation in which Vander has no choice but to abandon that sort of philosophy, and serves as a refutation because the entire point of why he did what he did and the why he acted the way he acted is to prevent any harm from coming to the people he cares about. And it's precisely because he acted in the way he did that harm came to his kids. And so, and that's one of the things that makes Arcane so great. There are no good answers. Just people trying their best.
Yeah.
which is usually more, which really at its heart is what makes a good, I think, story, and a more realistic story and a more human story. It's very rare in real life you meet some guy who walks down the streets kicking puppies and stabbing babies. Even the
course I know
Joker
him. He's
is like
me.
is absurdly evil compared to what regular people are like. But everyone in the show are extremely human. And I think that's what makes it so interesting, as characters, as a story. But let's get a bit more into the fight scene.
Interesting that he's so evenly matched with him. Like he's that much stronger than Vi.
Yeah. I mean, on one hand, he's a lot bigger, and a man, and has more experience.
Oh, for sure, it makes sense, but it's like seeing that depth of that skill gap is quite interesting,
It
and
also sort
seeing
of
that the purple guy is
reinforces,
still beating him.
and it sort of reinforces why Vi would idolize him so much.
Sure.
And this
Yikes.
is a very sad scene, right? Vi is very much, this entire show has been very sort of stoic, I guess would be the term.
Yeah.
And the scene where she's realizing that everyone she cares about is dying around her, she sort of has this big breaking moment. You can really hear it, where she's having this break. She's very trying to sort of not lose control of herself. And it's a
Her
clue.
arm that's lying. Oh
You
no,
can
she
see,
saw the monkey.
yeah, you can see Clagger's. You can see a bit of, I think, the outline of something back. There's Milo's arm.
Okay.
Right, that's Clagger's foot in the middle.
Mm.
I think that's Clagger's hand. Then Milo's in the left corner.
Got
Just
freaking
watch.
impaled too.
Yeah. And then
Jeez.
there's a clue,
Yeah.
like Blue's Clues. Now it should be. Fire's starting up.
Oh. Oh no.
So we have, this is kind of a nice poetic end, because from Silco's perspective, Vander stabbed him in the back, but
Yeah.
now he's literally stabbed him in the back. So there's a sort of sense of poetic justice from at least Silco's perspective that is occurring here. To reinforce that, we're going to have this scene. And that oh shit look, right? If we go back as soon as he grabs him. This is one of the few scenes where I notice his other eye first.
Mm. I think
This
that's
is,
intentional too.
yeah.
It's a lot darker. It blends in a lot more with the skin tone.
Yeah.
Orange eye.
I feel like on the first watch, this might be one of the only times we really see from facial expression. That, because I talked about it, because it's there, but you typically, when I went through it, I had to keep cognizant of we're looking at the right eye. This might be the only actual time, as a passive watcher, you might notice his
Yeah.
sort of facial expression.
No, for sure. And I'm like the interesting thing there is the intentionality of that, because typically like that orange eye is glowing a little bit, like it stands out. As
Yeah,
here it's kind of blurring in with the colors.
yeah. The artists typically draw attention to the eye, but the red and the
Yeah.
black mixed with the everything else is red and black.
Yes,
And
exactly.
this
Yeah.
time it's the white and the green that stands out,
Yes.
and it really sort of
Like
encompasses that.
that.
Oh this fear is really
Yeah.
being displayed to the audience, and
Should
a
I have
sort of
stabbed him?
vulnerable fear too, because he's got no one to back him up at
Absolutely.
this point. Aside from, I guess,
Well,
Deckard, who's not really
yeah,
in the
Deckard.
greatest shape. Uh, but yeah, speaking of stabbing in the back, we're back in the water, and now we got to find out what happened. Right, and that's, I don't know if you caught that. Remember at the earlier scene in Benzo's shop where he rubs his arm? There's worse things out there than enforcers.
Oh.
That's what happened. It's a nice detail that they didn't need to include, and you might miss it,
Oh, wow.
but it's a great detail. Right? There goes the arm.
Oh. Oh no! Fell on all the shimmer.
There's the twitch. Uh, once again, we have you pointed out earlier, but
That wait, what's that blade in his finger? Is that like a little bit of like shimmer in
oh,
him basically?
I think that's glass stuck in his face.
Glass? Okay.
Um,
The implication might be that because I like isn't there a scene later where he's like I don't know if this is a spoiler for the viewers.
yeah,
But
yeah, you'll see. It's coming up. I know what
okay.
scene you're talking about. Yeah, we have Silco sort of as he's throwing him off, laying him to rest or whatever. Like, I knew you still had it in you. You are still, and sort of the implication is there. This is what you really are. You were always this person. Uh, sort of
The
lays,
fighter or the backstabber?
uh,
Fighter, right, in this case?
yeah, he'll die for the cause, but you won't fight for one. So he put him in a position where he had a cause, and managed to
Hmm.
finally get him to do it. And so, sort of the implication, I guess, from Silco's perspective is he betrayed the cause, which to some degree, right? He wasn't willing to fight for the cause that they had fought for, but he did find a cause that he was willing to fight. That was his children.
Is it ever revealed what Silco did to make Vander decide to drown him, or is it implied that he was like like he was beginning this like shimmer thing, or like he was like talking of like taking the like because it seems like now it's like like Silco reveals that he wants to take the fight to Piltover.
Um, so uh, literally you've seen all of the backstory stuff they show with Vander and Silco. There is no more stuff.
Okay.
Uh,
Alrighty.
what my head canon, how I interpret what happened was, uh, Vander has the thing on the bridge that he goes to. It ends the way it ends. He goes home, has the change of heart, but Silco still wants to fight. Um, Originally, I thought that he made a deal with the enforcers. He had to take out Silco as part of the deal. But Silco seems to imply in like the earlier scenes that he says, "I still had respect for you until you made a deal with the enforcers, like dog." So probably what happened, how I interpret what happened is, Evander knew that Silco wasn't going to let the revolution stop, and so he had to get rid of him in order to keep everyone else safe.
Uh, very much the classic tale of revolutionaries.
That's how I interpret it anyway. I think it's better because I think you get, everyone sort of has a vague idea of what happens, right? And I think it's enough, and I think it's better to leave what happened to the imagination and to interpretation than to hash out everything. Dan Harmon makes a great point about this on his show Rick and Morty. because prior to the events of the show, there's this time when Rick and a bunch of the other guys, he knows, does this like revolution thing where they go and they fight the galactic government. And Dan Harmon has this thing where he says it's probably better not to go into it and let people just imagine what sorts of adventures they had. And then he breaks that rule in one of the more recent seasons, where he shows some of the stuff that happened. And I gotta say, he's right. I think it was better before he started showing those scenes off. So personally, I like Arcane's decision not to go too deep. They tell you everything you need to know to set the stage, but don't really just exposition dump, because it's not necessary, and it's better, I think, to leave it to the imagination. That also allows the viewer to sort of project their like, most people have been betrayed by someone at some point. So it allows the audience to project their history onto these two characters. Do you disagree with any of that?
Not entirely, no.
Okay. So he crashes there. See the Twitch. The colors are nice in that scene. Have like the right. We got the oranges and the yellows surrounding Vander, with all the shimmer pinky purples. I like the color composition that I pointed out.
Interesting. It's unusual.
Yeah, and
Well,
then
I
we
guess
have
it's,
Vander in the white and the green, unlike anything around. And white's nice because
the,
it
the
shows
green.
off
The
the
green
blood a lot
is
more.
actually is it green.
Well, I'm colorblind, Andrew. Not entirely, but I have difficulty with
Well,
greens, so
whose
you'll have to tell me.
whose fault is that?
God's?
Well, it's your fault for not being able to interpret the colors correctly, Max.
I'm not interpreting the colors.
Oh, you're clearly like of low intellect here.
Colors don't look like they should. That's the entire point. I can't see some colors.
Well, you should have studied harder in color school.
That's not how this works. This was actually, I don't know if I've told this story on the show, but I took a winemaking, or not a wine. I took a viticulture class, which is wine. And so part of the things you have to do is write down the wine colors. So my
Oh,
professor put up a slide. He's like, "Here's just some casual fun colorblind tests. You should be able to see the number 12 in here." And I look, and there's no number 12.
oh no.
And I leave the class, and I pull over one of the girls. I'm like, "Hey, see a 12 in here?" She's like, "Yeah, can you?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Oh, dude, you're colorblind." I'm like, "Are you sure?" "No, yeah, dude, you can't see colors."
Oh no.
Oh, great. I worked around it. It's just some of the white wines, looked green.
Oh, shoot.
So yeah, if I ever get a color wrong, what it is. I have difficulty with dark
We'll know who
colors.
to blame.
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
think that's
checking
green. I could be wrong.
I'm checking. So, like, so you're right. It is, but technically speaking, everything on here is brown except for the shimmer, which is a little bit purple. But it's still mostly brown, which is really interesting because color is very elusive like that. Like, basically everything in the shot is brown. But yeah, there are subtle differences, and it's pretty cool. Pretty cool how that works. Like, even the white is technically like a not even all that light brown.
Unlike Vander, she's stuck. Only there was someone to help her.
like powder.
What a nice young gentleman. Moved it all out of the way for her.
Oh no. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of delay.
Yep.
Oh man.
Notice we have a complete reversal from Vi and Deckard. Right? At the beginning, he's got her by the throat, and now Vander's got him by the throat.
Vander's got him by the throat?
Yeah, Vander's holding
Vander
Deckard by
came
the
back.
throat. Kind of looks like the Hulk.
Yeah.
I think it's a little intentional because of how he's reacting. Silco's just looking at him. Just want to back
He's
away.
like, oh frick.
And I don't know if you sound is fine. The voice is vaguely inhuman.
Oh, it sounded quite normal.
I
Surprisingly
did say
normal.
vaguely inhuman, but
Yeah, I hear it. I hear it. I see what you mean.
yeah. So now Vander has to make a choice between saving his kid and going after Silco. What's he going to choose?
And he's high on Shimmer, so he's. Oh wow! Even with that.
Yeah.
Even
Sort of
with
is the
that.
last. I would say this is sort of represents sort of the last because Silco's kind of broken down the philosophy a fair bit. But this is showing like the key difference between who Vander and Silco is at this point. Even though he's been forced into a position where he has to fight, true priority is still by yeah, Vi's the only kid left, but his kids at all times.
Yeah.
And even with the fucking simmer shit running through his veins and having difficulty controlling himself, he still chooses it. That's how important his daughter is. But Silco doesn't have a daughter, so he doesn't care about anyone like Vander does. That's why he's willing to give Deckard, who's like now his like protege, get him high on drugs and shit. You could say, Andrew, story of opposites. But I think that's about to change a little bit.
Slightly less opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's still like a considerable difference between like Vander and Silco. Obviously, like even if he was back on the principle of like I'm not gonna fight, period. He's still not willing to like, and there's not even it's not even like a gradualism or something. Like he's a little bit closer to being like Silco, where he'll put kids in danger. Like no, like he's just he is willing to fight in that circumstance. He's not gonna freaking put kids in danger
Yeah.
and protect them.
The fundamentally I think the biggest difference between is what they are sort of cause as, right?
Yeah,
Vander wants to improve life for the people he cares about around him. And so directly sacrificing people goes against his objectives. Whereas Silco doesn't seem to have those personal connections with anyone at this point in the story. So
yeah,
his cause is Zon. And so as long as Zon is built, sacrifices are permissible. Which is very similar to I've told you how much I love Berserk. This is an interesting question in Griffith, which pisses me off. I've told you this so many times. I've seen so many videos about how Griffith doesn't care about anyone or whatever, and entirely misses the fucking point of that character.
mm.
You have not read Berserk, I believe.
No, I haven't.
What makes Griffith such an interesting character? Well, I don't know. Actually, we're going on a bit of a tangent here. We'll talk a bit about it at the end of the show. But
Very well.
what so there's obviously there are differences between Silk and Vander. But what this what I think a lot of this scene is, what a lot of this part is um, the Vander has his sort of his ideology, so to speak, and Silco I think effectively destroys it, beats it. Though I think when Vi comes back, she sort of represents, uh, she's as she does, she sort of synthesizes this event, and when she comes back as this acts as sort of a refutation to Silco's belief, not. Which by the point they actually meet is sort of redundant. But this is also, I think, the point of Vi has a song when she beats up a bunch of people. I think it's called Snakes or something, which sort of embodies this idea, this sort of this counter, this philosophical difference. But yeah, crashes through, lands, saves Vi, and what's great about this, well, actually, I'll talk about when we get. Once again, he's got pink eyes. Be noticeable if you know why that was noticeable. And so this is a great scene because we've had climax and the literal the fall from the climax, which is joined by a literal fall, right? It's in your act structure, you have the rising action, climax, and then the falling action.
So this show is basically a 2-act structure. Season speaking, right?
Well, the season has literally 3 acts.
It does have 3 acts, okay.
Yeah, episode 1 to
but
3, 4 to 6, and 7 to 9.
There's not a time skip in 7 to 9?
No.
Okay. So that first act is very clearly... So the climax of the first act is effectively like that first plot point inciting incident, but Act 1 has its own inciting incident. Cool.
Right? And so the big climax of it is like the explosion to Vander taking the thing and saving Vi. That's what I'd say the climax of this act is. And the falling action is him like him dying out here. This is literally the falling action where he falls out of the building and he hits the ground and he dies. And now we've lost Milo, we've lost Clagger, we've lost Vander. This seems like the sort of the pit, right? Nothing. This couldn't possibly get any worse.
He doesn't die.
No, he's dead.
I thought there's like theories that he's back or something.
Don't worry about that yet.
Okay.
And then it does get worse. Coming in, no idea what's going on. Worst possible fucking thing she could have said. No,
Yeah.
coming in full speed, no loop.
She has no idea the boys are dead.
No, she Powder at this point is under the preconception that she has saved the day.
Yeah, and she might even she probably doesn't even know that that's Vander lying there dead either.
She has realized nothing. We've hit the lowest, what we thought was the lowest point, and the show came out and said, "Oh no, boys, we got some shovels. We're going subterranean."
Oh no.
And she comes out with the worst, right? She comes in like, "This is a good. Hey guys, I just killed our entire family. Look at me. Aren't I great?"
Oh boy.
Right? And we immediately cut back to hold on a second. I saw that monkey face. The puzzle pieces are coming together and forming the worst possible picture. And she's figured it out. And once again, the facial expressions. Powder has realized Vi is not overjoyed. Something is clearly wrong. Let's see if we can get some puzzle pieces here. It's a pretty big fucking puzzle piece. Right?
Oh, why are those down there?
Those are Clagger's goggles.
Yeah, but they were up top.
The fire explosion sent them through a window.
There.
But I'm gonna let the rest of the scene play out as is because it's your first
Yeah,
time actually listening to the scene. So
yeah,
we'll
no,
let
I
it play
want
out
to see
and then
this.
we'll come back for it. But I just want to say this build up to what's about to happen is really, really great. Right? She comes in super happy, and it takes us through the entire moments of her realization for both people. Vi's at her lowest. Powder's at the highest she's ever been. Vi's at the lowest she's ever been. They meet, and they're like, okay, why is there this discrepancy? And Vi puts the pieces together, like, oh shit, this is something you fucking did this, you piece of shit.
Yeah,
And
well, I
Powder
mean,
also starts coming to the conclusion, like, she sees Vander. Well, first she sees Vi is not thrilled with her. Like, something's weird here. Then she sees Vander's dead. And then she has that moment where she backs up.
you
Right?
see, in a worse show, Powder and Vi would have looked at each other and said, my sister, it seems that there is an incongruence between our perceptions of the events that have transpired. Explain to me your perception of things.
Yeah. Unironically, how it would have been was would have come and said she would have come in and done like the full breakdown of what she's like. Hey guys, aren't you? See guys, I totally was useful, and I did save you. Aren't you guys so proud of me? And then
Milo,
Vi would
Clark,
have turned.
Vander, where are you?
Yes, she would have said that. And then Vi would have turned and said, "You killed them all, you piece of
Yeah,
shit."
yeah.
Right? But in this scene, we have Vi putting it together, and all this time we're just watching in horror as it unfolds, knowing that they're going to figure it out. And then Powder sees Vander's dead, and she's like, "I was only trying to help. I was only." And she sees Glagger's goggles and puts it together the gravity of what she's done. And then this scene unfolds. I'm just going to let it play, and we'll go back and talk about it afterwards. Because of I just want you to experience it as it is. I'm going to pause it there. That's it. Yeah, I'm going to pause it there. So, great voice
Boy,
acting.
yeah, amazing. Just
Phenomenal.
all around
First
amazing.
take too.
First take?
Yeah. It's
Oh
either
my
her first
gosh.
or second, I think. I can't
Wow.
remember anymore. But yeah, they only
That's
did like,
usually that's usually like a bad idea, but yeah, that's awesome.
well, when you nail it that hard, you
No,
really
for
need
sure,
another
that's
one.
amazing.
So
Wow.
this scene is phenomenal for so many. Let's go back and look over it again. Um, let's go through
My
it.
goodness.
Throw it on mute. Talk of it.
Actually, I'm gonna cry. I'm cry. Sad.
It's a
It's great.
legitimately heartbreaking scene.
Oh, like for sure. Like I don't know. Like oh, I. it's
Renders you speechless.
Yeah, well, yeah, but there's a lot to say, like a lot to say. Like, um, neither of us have ever killed our whole families, but surely,
Hold on.
well,
Neither of us have killed our whole families yet.
and so,
Yes, please continue.
so, um, surely the feeling of like I thought I did something good, but like I really screwed up, like really, really bad. Like this is not a joke, really bad. Like that's super relatable, at least for me. Like, um, I was driving a couple years ago, and I was driving some friends of mine, and then kind of like a friend that I see like less often, and then we were driving to a big place to go see a bunch of other people, and I basically like rear-ended another guy. Um, and then I think he was like driving with like his I don't know if it was his girlfriend or like his wife or something, but um, and the car got destroyed. I don't think anyone got injured, but I think he mentioned that like the girl was kind of not feeling great, and I was like, yeah, like it took me like a long time to like realize like what happened. Like the whole day was just like very much like almost like not like a not like a blur, but like I don't know what to do. I can't make it like I can't make a joke of this. Like I can't laugh about it. I can't be like, oh haha, like what a silly situation. Like no, like there's not like like the car is destroyed. My friends are pissed at me. And one of my friends was like very much kind of like making light of it and being like, oh, it's happens. And then the other guy was like, well, you should like learn your lesson here. And the other friend was like, I hate you. um, but yeah, it's very, it's very just like visceral of like if this actually happened, it's like my goodness, like I can't help but just be like I just like I hope. I hope that like nothing will ever happen where I'm like I'm doing the right thing. I have to do this, and then it turns out to be just a disaster. Which I think that's a lot of things that not to this scale, but that's something that's really every big decision that anyone makes. It's like I either have to do this, like maybe you're putting down a mortgage or like you're moving or like you're taking a new job. It's like I need to support my family. If this job, if I quit my job and I don't get the right job, then we're screwed. If I buy the wrong house, we're screwed. Like you know what I mean? It's like it's such a raw and like something that it's something that you should only experience when you're an adult, right? But here's this little girl experiencing something far, far worse. It's wow.
Yeah, and that might also be one of the reasons this scene is so effective and so heartbreaking. I think everyone has a story about some time they seriously fucked something up, and it's probably less bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So this is because we talked about this earlier, the difference between empathy and sympathy. This is a moment where we can understand empathetically to some degree something we probably otherwise couldn't. Right? If someone shows up and says, "Oh, I killed my family," but it was an accident, we can be sympathetic to that. But the way it's
Yeah.
structured, like there you can find similarities to a lesser extent, but you can find similarities between what she has done and what someone watching would have done. Right? My story isn't. I can think of one. It's not nearly. It's probably not as bad as yours. I got one involving a rose bush that I destroyed. When I was specifically told, uh, and also I have a similar in which I was told not to go near it, much like powder. Um, and yeah, I ended up destroying my mom's rose bush. over a
Mm.
misunderstanding. But while we can't directly empathize with killing your family, we can empathize with having done something horrible and uh,
So
and not
trying
listen
to do it
and not
right, yeah.
listening to someone who told you to do something for your own good and have done something worse and all these other stuff that makes this scene empathetic to us, despite us not being
Yeah.
able to understand the full weight of what's happening. We can understand it on a smaller level and scale it up. And then we have her heartbreaking fucking ugly crying. This sort of screeching crying where she's just screaming about how she can't be alone. And keep in mind, right, she's already gone through one set of parents.
Yeah.
This is her second set, and now even Vi is leaving her. Right? This is a kid with very serious
Well,
abandonment issues.
yeah, and like also, so well, okay, I want to say something about Vi, so that if there's more to say about Jinx here, I'll wait.
Um,
Sorry, Powder.
there's probably more to say about Powder, but let's talk about it as we go through this game. Um, is the thing you want to say about Vi in relation to the punch?
Yeah.
Okay, then let's continue up to the point where she hits her and talk about it then. Got to get through. Right, that was the other thing I want to talk about. Those facial expressions, right? Just fucking look at those.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And told you to stay away, didn't listen. Right, and there's a lot of like the body framing. If you ever go through like a drama course, they'll talk to you about this. But she's making herself right. She's taller here, but as she goes to the realize, she gets smaller.
Yeah.
Right, you can see she's like hunched over and making herself small, leaning in. And then that happens, and I assume you want to say something, Andrew.
It was more so after this, what came to my mind?
When she's looking at the gloves or the wraps.
No, well, I'll get to it when we get to it. But in terms of this though, this is like, I mean, like, man, like, well, knowing Vi's tendency to, I don't know, like, oh, I
Yeah,
don't even know how to put it. I don't even know what to call it.
I've
It's
seen
not.
some
Like, is it an
people.
overreaction? Is it a lashing out? Like, well, I guess it's lashing out, but like,
Well, here's the thing.
what do you do, right?
I've seen people say that Vi this is out of character and she's a horrible person for doing this or all those things. Um, a lot of those people I would hazard a guess are only children,
Yes.
which is a bit
Yeah.
rich coming from me, an only child. But growing up, I hung out with my god brother as a brother and a younger brother and a younger sister. And I'm sure anyone who's experienced any groups of brothers of any sort knows that they get into fights all the time.
Yes.
Apparently, I was Ricada. I was watching his stream, and apparently his daughter's the worst because she'll just hit them, and pull the
Wow.
"I'm a girl."
Wow.
But but Vi, who we know at this point, first reaction to everything is violence, right?
Yeah.
One,
Well, this is entirely in character. Her,
two.
her sister just killed her brothers and her father. Like, what do you do if you're that, like, that prone to anger?
This is my brother in Christ. Listen, her whole family is dead. Um, but yeah, and she has this like, and then on top of that, Powder fucking saunters in there like, look how great I fucking am.
Yeah.
After she fucking kills, and then deliberately disobeys her to go do that after she specifically told her not to. And in this one moment, makes one rash decision that she will regret for the rest of the series, and hits her. And then that those facial and how she's looking, it's heartbreaking. And again, she's hunched over, making herself smaller. the Jinx thing makes sense in why they had to put it there. I think the Milo bit's probably a little bit too much. You know, it probably would have worked because you're a Jinx and then moved on with that. I think that was a bit needless, a bit too much dialogue. You could have trimmed a bit, but
Maybe. I mean, I think it's one of those things where you can say a for and an against pretty easily.
yeah.
Um,
Either way, it's not a
I,
big deal.
I was looking up pictures a second ago, and I came across this that I'll send you um in the server. What are you laughing?
So fucking. Oh. Here, let me. Can I throw it on the
No, I mean
screen?
like it's like I wonder what to make of that. You know, like legit. Like,
This is clearly a shit post.
think so?
Yeah. Circumstances and everything's entirely different. This is clearly a shit. Here, I'll throw it on the stream.
I don't know. I think there's like
Okay, you're
I
with
don't
the
know
four. I'm
what to make of
against.
it, but
Uh,
I'm not sure. I just don't know. I just saw it. I'm like, huh, interesting. Like, I wonder what the what the parallel to draw from any parallel that might be there. But
I
uh,
I think this is a what's why were the curtains blue? I think this is reaching a bit.
okay.
Uh, for a couple of
Well,
reasons. One, the
you think so?
context
I
is
mean,
different. Two, they're not even
but,
really grabbing the same place. Uh, like
but isn't like Silco like a brother to Vander? Like, it's a bit of like a betrayal, like, or at least a perceived betrayal. It's a lashing out of like Vander grabbing Silco there is a different context, but Vander grabbing Silco initially, like, well, it's still somewhat a different context. It's still, yeah, actually like tried to like kill him there, but like, it's sibling or close bond, pseudo sibling violence against sibling who is attempting to do something very very good in their mind. Difference here, I think, is that Vi and Powder have that innocence about them that like Powder legitimately like wasn't trying to hurt anybody except for Silco and Deckard. Um, whereas Silco was. I don't know. I think it's an interesting point. I don't
no,
think it was intended to be a shit post.
kind of changing my mind here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you kind of are. Right, this is Vander's moment when he loses control versus Vi's moment when he control,
Yeah.
and then this smaller sibling placed a lot of trust in you and has been betrayed. You're winning me over, but I think
I went
I
to the unfortunately it was Tumblr, but looks like they
that site's still
didn't
around.
intend it to be.
I thought it disappeared
Yeah,
after they got
right?
rid of all the porn.
Surprisingly.
You know,
Yeah.
you're making a convincing argument. I still think this was a shit post. um, I think the artist was shit posting a little bit, but you've convinced me that at least in the film, there's a bit of a similarity. I've changed my mind. There's a good reason the curtains were blue. Okay, well, let's get this off screen. I threw it up on the stream. I don't know if you saw.
I didn't see it on the stream, but
No, I threw it
you
up.
mentioned.
But yeah. Also, we once again the sad boy, despite being a girl. This is a bit of a heartbreaking face.
No, absolutely. Her like kind of moving back when like Vi just stands up, like that. I think on EFAP they were like that's what a permanently scarred child does. Like it's irreversible change has been made.
Again, no dialogue from Vi after this point, but we know exactly what at all times just from the visuals. Right? This facial expression is very clear what she's feeling right now.
Yeah.
Oh shit, what have I done? Right, and this is all grappling with just right, and this is why I think it's a little absurd to go so hard on her for this. She has this momentary, this horrible thing happens. Everything that could make this the worst thing it possibly could be has happened, and she has this moment of uncontrollable emotion well up, and relies on the one thing that's got her through everything so far, without like as reflex, and makes this one mistake, and it will haunt her for the rest of her life now. Right, and she's realizing how big of a deal this was. Right, and that cut's pretty gut wrenching. Right, she's realized what she's done in the horrible, and takes a look at Powder to see, and bleeding and shit. Reminds me of something from a Jordan Peterson uh, talk where he was talking with a child psychologist, and they were talking about roughhouse play, and sometimes kids get a bit too rough, and so what they suggested, and I'm inclined to take their advice as their psychologists, is what they talked about doing was uh, they made the kid who did the damage look at what he did. It's like, this is what you did. Look at it, and so to make them understand how what they did was sort of unacceptable. And this scene is using that to really lay into to both the viewer and Vi the magnitude of what has occurred here. And Vi looks like she's about to cry now. She realizes what she's done, and she is now on the right, but also the anger still. She has this mix of emotions. So what do you do when you have emotional outbursts and can't control yourself? She separates from the situation and leaves her. But that shot is really nice. It does get there. Right, as it fades off of her and fades onto the goggles, sort of reinforcing that idea in Powder's mind that he's being left behind. Is there anything you wanted to add, or should we continue?
Um. Yeah. Let's. Actually, yeah. There is. So what I kind of was wondering about was like from somebody's perspective, maybe like I don't know, but like I don't know how to put it. So I don't think this is the case, and I don't think this is even in Vi's mind. But like, what like this thing came to mind of like, what if in Vi's mind this was like leaving Powder is like a profound mercy to her because the alternative is beating the crap out of her. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, right. When Vi eh, probably
it's like
leaving at this
the
point.
biggest mercy she could have done was to leave. Which I don't know if.
You could also view it as like protecting her because she's clearly not in control of herself, which is kind of a similarity what Vander does when he breaks into his place and he's all hopped up on Shimmer. First thing he does is he leaves. Right? He pulls out and he grabs his head and whatnot. Right? You remember what I'm talking about?
Yes, yeah.
So this is probably a coping strategy of some sort that's existing in this family structure. of when you're losing control, you have to separate yourself, which also would make sense for someone like Vi who has violent tendencies, right? And I think the facial emotions have a bit to do with this because she's very upset about what she did, but she's also still angry, and so she leaves to go sort of calm down, which Powder is seeing as being abandoned at this point. I'm going to turn the sound back on. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Right. And there's the horrible, sad music. And we have that reinforcement of the abandoned feelings. Don't leave. I need you. And then basically begging her to stay. Right, which really reinforces Powder is seeing this as being abandoned again. And also, Vi is like the only consistent sort of pillar of support she has. She's Vi probably feels bad, but Powder probably feels way fucking worse because she's the one who killed them all. And so she's sort of reaching out for support and like the one person she could count on to help her, despite the fact that she just punched her, and she's being
Mm.
left. And worst of all is Powder views it as probably as her actions are causing this, so she's pushed Vi away as well as killed her family.
True. It just keeps getting worse. Oh man. No, it really. There's few things worse than seeing a loved one miserable or angry and knowing or thinking that you had some part to play in that or caused it in any way.
And then we get to sort of the crescendo, I guess, of sadness. I will say, when I originally watched this, because I like Silgo so much, and I vibe with some of the stuff he says. Uh, to be fair, they set up the dichotomy as Vander versus Silco, which is pacifism, which I am clearly not. Or and to be fair, at this point, we haven't seen a whole. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to run defense for Silco, but I was really, what I was? I was on Team Vi going and kicking the shit out of him. Right? Remember that beginning scene we saw where she has like that face look for revenge? I really wanted them to go and fight the enforcers. And I was a
Mm-mm.
little annoyed because I felt like, well, Silco's going to be the villain for the entire thing, and I kind of agree with his positions. And then everything started to make sense.
What? Where? How did they not have? They not have crossed each other's paths? What the heck?
Well, Vi and
Why
so
just straight up like literally leave?
so
And then he
Vi
walked right by
fell.
by.
So this is part of what I said about spacing. Um, we didn't talk about spacing earlier when I wanted to talk about that a bit in a
Uh,
second. But so what? Vi went out the window. Powder fell out the window as well. So he probably exited from a door somewhere. And he would have had to gone down a level, whereas Powder and
well, I'm actually okay with him showing up, but like it was a little strange with the framing. It seemed like he came from the direction that Vi had left towards. You know what I mean, like I thought Vi was like sitting underneath that little
oh
like
yeah,
tower or whatever that was.
I know what you're saying. I had a ton of trouble with what was happening. Um, I you- I think if we watch a bit further, we'll be able to figure it out. I can't remember how I figured it out. I was a
Okay,
bit confused as where Vi was in relation to that.
all right.
But This is also this scene will be one of the big reasons I don't like how the initial remember our beef with the opening song, how it shows the two sisters fighting. I think it ruins one of the things that happens in this scene. But watch it. Yeah, that if we didn't have that scene and you didn't know who the characters are, you might think he's going to straight, or like any of the art or whatever. You might have come to the conclusion that he was going to straight up gank her, leaving Vi with no one, and this would turn into like the big revenge story. But
Mm,
obviously, because we know all the promotional material, and we know and we know that Jinx lives to adulthood, we know he can't kill her here. Sort of, I feel ruins a little bit of this. But you've played League at all, you know she's not going to die here. This is where I figured out what's going to happen next.
I've played one game of League in my whole life. I don't even remember what character I was.
Uh,
Yeah.
I like Brandt and Anivia and Vladimir. But yeah, so we pulled the knife and notice Powder's still making herself appear super small.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to see Silka from her perspective here. So
Uh,
what I think has happened is uh, that tube is what he walked around. So he walked out of that alleyway, past Vi, and then towards Powder.
see.
And Vi wasn't paying attention because she's in a lot of pain, getting the shit kicked out of her.
Hmm.
But yeah, then he sees him standing there menacingly, and let's see what happens. But you forgot about him, didn't you, Andrew? That's right. He saw the explosion, came over.
Oh no! Other effort.
I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of sus that he just has roofies on him. Or I guess this would be chloroform. A little sus. Not gonna lie. But
Yeah.
but yeah, drags her into the dark. And now we are left here. You know what music is playing right now?
No.
Silco's theme, a story of opposites. Not so opposite now.
All these like goons, just like what the hell?
I wanna do this. I wanna let the rest of the scene play out on its own. So I want to talk about up to this point. So we have Vi gets dragged away, and then we have this interaction with Silco and Powder, right? And I've heard some criticism of Powder. How could she hug Silco after what he's done? Which,
Yeah.
tell me you've never felt him. Tell me you have no idea. Tell me you can't experience empathy without telling me you can't experience empathy. If anyone has
Well,
ever been a child and had like a breakdown like this, they can tell exactly why Powder did what she did and what she's going through.
I'm
Um,
not. I'm not sure. Like, I mean, I guess she. Well, does she not know Silco? Was she not targeting him? The bomb?
I don't think it
She
matters.
was. I mean, I think it does. I mean, what? Why wouldn't she just be like, "I'm terrified of you. I'm leaving. I'm running away."
Because sometimes as a kid, uh, something terrible or something happens, and you get pushed to a brink, and you need something, just something to cling on to. Uh, Anything will do, really. Uh, which it's not an experience I expect most people to have had. So fair enough. But at this point, I think at this point she would hug anyone or anything that would embrace her. Because
Yes, I would do like a minor tweak. I would have him like kind of like kneel down and like put his hand on like her shoulder or something first and be like, "Oh, there," as he says whatever, like, "Where's your sister?" Then she just kind of like maybe doesn't like jump towards him, but just kind of like, I don't know, just like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if she would probably make sense to me that she would like, oh, okay, like, yeah, I need a hug or whatever. It doesn't really make sense to me that she'd be like, human in proximity, jump. I don't know.
I I
And
understand
and
what you're
I'm
saying. I just completely disagree with it.
so no, that's fair. I like, and I'm not super. I'm not gonna like. I'm not like. Well, it must be the case that she wouldn't do that.
I
I don't
think
know.
I think you probably have to go through a certain kind of experience to exactly understand what she's going through.
Yeah,
Um, but this isn't when I say that she needs to. Like I'm not saying like this is. I'm not saying like she needs a hug, as in like, you're like a friend and I want to make you feel better. I mean like this has become the primary thing on Laszlo's pyramid of hierarchies. She will die
mm,
without it in her mind. Uh, which to be fair I imagine it's a pretty uncommon experience for most people to go through. In like I I, I don't know if it happens to adults. Um, but I imagine that most people, especially growing in up in a first world country, may not have had an experience like this. But from Powder's perspective, and uh, she genuinely needs something to cling on to at this point. She has nothing else. She will fall and die if she doesn't. And Silco is the only one and only thing nearby that can offer any sort of she's drowning and there's no sign of land, to quote the mountain goats, and Silco is the only life preserver that exists in this moment for her. And so her options are this or die. From like within her psychology.
yeah, I understand. Mm. I guess like from my understanding psychologically, and maybe and this could very well just be like it's a different thing for different people, but like how we saw her like recoil when Vi just like stood up, right? Like, if you like, I wonder if like would she not just be like everything is a threat? Maybe like, because like, if I'm
Uh,
trying to think of a similar thing, maybe it's more so like in movies, but like, so where like will get like, like kids might get like betrayed or something, and then they like someone else comes to be like, oh no, it's okay, and then they're actually like a good person, and they'd be like, no, no, like, wouldn't you like also leave me, or like something like that, you know what I mean? Like
right.
the assumption is everybody, like, if even Vi left me, everybody's gonna leave me, and especially this like evil person, right?
So I think I we can go back and rewatch the scene, but I probably any recoiling is like sort of a jittery response. As Vi's leaving, she's reaching out and trying to sort of grab her as she's going. Of course, she's too far away to, but she does that like reach out and trying to force drag her back. And then she has like a couple seconds where she stares at Silco before coming to the decision that she can't control herself anymore and jumps to it.
Hmm.
So I think that is the sort of the danger feel, the danger zone, where she has this contemplation. Problem is, this is the rider and the elephant. The elephant is demanding hugs at any cost, and the rider can't control it. And so she
See.
literally jumps into Silco's arms. Do you have anything you want to say more?
I think that's probably fine.
Um, and then Silco says my sister's abandoned me or whatever it is. And so
Yeah, she said like she says she's not my sister anymore, which is
that's it.
like, and that's another thing that I'm like, I don't know, maybe I just haven't been a kid long enough, but well, I
What
guess like
is
if in her mind, okay, so in her mind, Vi has like, left despite all of her begging, pleading, tears. Vi has left. She doesn't care. Guess I would be like I would expect like hmm,
what is the age difference between you and your sister?
my sister's 8 years older than me. I
Okay,
think I is what 4 years older than how old is
something
she
like
in this? Yeah,
I always interpret it.
6.
So I've heard different things with like authorial intent and whatnot. I've always interpreted this as Powder being 9 and Vi being around 14.
Yeah, that so with
I don't know. I've
I
never
would
had a brother or sister. I hear it's pretty common to say stuff like "not my sister anymore," "not my brother anymore." I can't personally testify to that, but if there was ever a time any sibling was going to say it, this would be one of those times. Um, but yeah,
maybe.
and then the other thing I wanted to talk about is Silco reacts to what's happening. At first, he's confused. Like what the fuck
Yeah.
is happening?
Just to well, actually, yeah. Let's move on.
Right? And then he comes to the realization of what's happening. I think we want to go back a bit.
Turn the volume on.
Well, I wanted to talk over it, so I left it on.
Okay.
He says she's not my sister anymore, and then he looks and he sees Vander, and he's
Mm,
final person putting the final pieces together.
now realizing that she did the bomb.
Yeah, realize that she's done the bomb. He realizes that like him, she's been she feels betrayed at least. So he's I think at this point, I think there's two things going on. One, he sees her as useful. I think that's actually the minor thing that's happening. I think what was really mostly seeing is that he's seeing himself in her, right? She's willing to go to whatever lengths were necessary, and she sees uh, sister has abandoned her and has betrayed her, like Vander betrayed and abandoned him. Uh, and there's also really something happened between the two, like something happened between them that's upset her greatly, much like how upset he was over what happened between him and Vander. But I think he's making the connections, and for the first time in the show, he is empathizing with someone.
Mm,
And so, for the first time, it's not a tale of opposites, but a tale of similarities. And these faces are great because he's going to show her affection, but this is so foreign to them that they are unsure what he's doing, with like a
Yeah.
little bit of a horrified look because they're not
Yeah.
sure what he's about to do.
Yeah. They're like, yeah, like kill the kid, are you? Wait, you're hugging the kid? Oh, I didn't catch that line. What do you say?
They're great lines. Back and we,
It's okay.
yeah. So it's okay. I think these next lines are brilliant. We'll talk about them after the end of this. Right. Great song.
Yeah, I like this.
The end credit song as well. Go back and we'll talk about what's happening in this. But I just want to let the
Did
music
he
play.
say it's okay? We'll show them. We'll show them all.
Yep,
Is that what he said?
that's
Okay.
the line. And it's a great fucking line for a number of reasons. Um, so let's start with the obvious. One, it's doing something that she's had a hard time getting anyone else to do. It's a we statement, not an I and you statement, right? The whole the only thing Power's been trying to do for this entire thing is be one of the group, right? But Vi keeps saying, "You're ready, you're not ready. You can come, you can't come."
Hmm.
And Silco has made this unambiguous statement about how we are now in this together. We are a joint team, uh, which is all she really wants. She wants just someone to hold on to and be with. Not like sexually, but to exist in
Well,
tandem with.
obviously. Yeah.
Well,
Like,
some people get a bit weirded out by some of the stuff that happens later, but we'll talk about it when it comes up.
yeah.
Um, but when I say that, what I mean by that is, she needs she wants someone, she needs some sort of support, because everyone else who has ever supported her up until this point has been violently taken away from her.
Yeah.
And uh, whenever she did have someone, they were hesitant about letting her be truly a part of this group. And Silco, who honestly is the most dangerous and is probably in the most dangerous line of work, is the one that says, "We are in this together now. This is a joint operation. We will show them." It also reinforces Silco's view about how they are similar, right? We'll show them all. We're in the same position. These people betrayed us. They've left us. They don't believe in us. And we're going to prove them all wrong. Which is, this is honestly the most similar Silco has ever been to anyone else. Because who else do we know who feels like this? That's also Jason Victor's story.
That's true.
Don't ask the world for permission. We show them that it works. Right? And this is what I mean about it being deeply human. Characters have a very human traits and all connected. They're all connected thematically as well. Um, but yeah, and it's also very simple. He's not criticizing. He's not saying that she's done anything wrong. She's not shitting on her. He's just sitting there saying everything's fine. Everything is fine. Everything will be fine, and we're going to be great. And then we have the song come on, "Goodbye," which is the big song for this episode. Oh, the other big thing I want to say for that scene is listen to the what happens to the music when he talks, and the sound as well. Nice touch. They cut the music as he's they fade the music out as the music is gone. He begins to speak. They hammer home the importance of what he's saying. It's okay. Show them thunder. Show them all. Really hammering the gravity of what's happening in that moment. And the final great piece of aside from the music of the scene is we have turn on Powder's eye, and we pull out. And this song's great. In addition to being incredibly sad, probably pull up the lyrics, but the song's about loss, right? I see the tear on my father's face. Which is, of course, highly thematic because Powder has, in a way, let down everyone she cares about by killing them all. And then we have this zoom out as the song's playing, which has this bright orange pupil in a black sea, representative of which character, which has just taken the possession of and guardianship of and responsibility for our protagonist. We know with an orange eye, Andrew.
Vi.
The answer
Definitely
was
Vi.
Silco.
Oh, it's Deckard. Deckard has an orange eye. No, purple eye. Oh, of course. Clegger. Clegger's got these two big orange eyes. No. He's
Right,
dead.
okay.
Can't.
But song's great. The song's about loss and relates specifically to how. Right, I mentioned a couple of lyrics as we were listening, but let everyone down, crying dad. Parallels are obvious, right? And it's a
Crying
great.
dad or dead dad?
What?
Crying dad or dead dad?
It
I
says
guess he was.
the lyrics are, "I can see a tear on my father's face." I think it's. Uh,
I guess he could theoretically be dead and have a tear on his face. A little bit. Just being silly.
yeah, because it's talking about the dying dad. I can hear the sound of a heartbeat before it goes out. Whenever leave my memory, bloodshed all around. I can see a tear on my father's face before it falls out. My enemy, how could I have let you down? Right. So the whole thing is about it's about saying goodbye. Believe it or not, song tell goodbye, where half the lyrics are goodbye. But it's also about coming to terms with what you've done, the destruction bloodshed you've caused, the death of these people you care about, and not having a home anymore.
Mm.
Which I think the relevance is obvious.
Sure.
And then
sure.
as we pull out on this vision of Silco, this representation of Silco, this like aesthetic eye, you have these final choruses of goodbye, 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 as she effectively switches sides. And that's just the end.
Something I found very interesting lately. I think I don't remember if I talked about this in the last episode or to you or if it was just in writing, but this idea of whether or not you intend something, you still have consequences. You still have what I in I guess like the Catholic faith we call temporal punishment, like w- whether or not the actual like guilt is has ever been there, or if you go to confession remains, like the consequences are still there, the temporal aspect is still there. You still like, and you still have to face that, like the idea, like, I don't know, I just find it very interesting that like she caused this great evil, even though it she had no, like she had the most, noble and innocent desire. And your to your point, did Silco really, is Silco the one that caused this? Probably. Um,
Yeah, most people don't
and
have
and
bad
that,
intentions when they do stuff. Everyone sort of,
well, okay, sure, but I mean, like, if you have the intention to like specifically like save people, but then instead the people that you're trying to save die, right? And then
well, isn't that
it's
just the
like,
story of the communists?
oh,
I mean,
um,
Marx certainly believed he was saving people, right?
I mean, did Marx just do the writing, or did he actually like
He did
do
the
the
writing.
revolution stuff? Yeah, but he didn't actually like do the revolution.
He advocated for it, but he didn't actually do it. Uh,
Yeah.
Lenin did it,
But he,
but
he already in doing so, like he would be intending to kill people, right?
sure, but Powder intended to kill people.
Yeah, but she didn't intend to kill Clagger, Milo, and Vander.
Right? Marx never intended to get the proletariat killed. They're both going after bad guys in their mind. I'll grant you, communism has proven to be a bit of a bit of an evil. But I'm saying the intentions of any ideologue or any group, right? Silgo's intentions aren't bad. He's trying to make the world a better place for Zonites.
Well, I mean, at a certain point, his intention was to threaten and kill Vi and the kids, and even Vander.
Yeah.
Which maybe in his mind, there's an aspect of justice and vengeance in that, but
Yeah, but there's also like at some point to do any good you have to rate from his perspective, right? Music stop so I can stop this. But from Silco's perspective, they were threats to the utopia, so to speak. So he had to get rid of them. Sacrifices must be made for the greater good. The intention there is to create a world where people have opportunity. The intention is to create a better world for everyone. Uh, he was just willing to make sacrifices that others wouldn't have, much like how Powder was willing to sacrifice some of Silco's men uh, to help her family. Right? Everyone's question of sacrifices to some degree and methodology, and this is why I like the I think it's an MLK quote where he says the question is not between the means and the ends, uh, for the means will be explicit in the ends, or something like that, which is about how the world you create is determined by how you create it. So if you enact evil to create the world, you'll have an evil world, which is an interesting perspective and makes sense for a guy who got the world he wanted through pacifism. But my point is, right, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Go to Britain and go to Ireland, you'll have two very different opinions on the IRA. Everyone views themselves
yeah.
as the hero of their own story, and humans are exceptionally good at post hoc rationalizing their decisions to be the right ones. Especially in a world like Arcane, where there isn't any clear answers as to what is good and what is not, or what is and is not the right decisions.
Yeah,
But
it's certainly profoundly complicated. Um, a second. Oh well, okay. I just noticed something in the credits. Um,
Something you
yeah,
want to
because
talk about?
Riot. No, just because Riot and the connection to Tencent and stuff, but that's another matter. That doesn't matter right now. But I was all I was really like highlighting, I guess, is just the idea of consequence, right? Like regardless of intention. Which I guess just saying the idea of it isn't really saying anything interesting, but it's just like seeing the consequence of an action that was intended to be enacted one way, but ended up causing something explicitly contrary to what was intended.
I call it ironic.
Yes. Well, my
On that
good
somber
friend.
note, we've gone through
Yeah,
the entire thing of Arcane. Unless we got any final
whole show.
thoughts, I think it's time we close out the show.
Yeah, I'm needing to get to bed because I have to wake up early tomorrow, get to work. And as always, this was great.
That was nice. Nice finishing off episode 3. We'll be starting the close of the first act. We'll be starting the next act next week.
I'm excited.
Very excited. Banger of an episode. I think second best in the entire season.
It was fantastic.
Yeah. If you want to watch more streams, subscribe to this channel. And also want to see more of my stuff, maxgang.com. Short stories. I recently updated the card games page to be more reflective of what's actually been done. And you can also watch streams there if you want. Except for this week, I don't know why it didn't work. I allowed embedding and it just didn't work. Andrew, you want to shill some shit?
Wishlist Obscura on Steam. Subscribe to my non-existent Patreon.
You also got a YouTube
Have a
channel.
wonderful night. Oh yeah, subscribe.
I think your channel is included in all the descriptions. But yeah, it's getting a bit late. It was nice doing another episode. We're a third of the way through the season. Can't wait for next time round.